Yeah. Whoop. I ain't tryna bring you down, but for real, you might as well give up now. Think you got a chance, but I don't see how. Got a real tight grip when I hold that crown. My life been good and bad and all around. The more things I lost, the more I found. One thing I taught myself to do, no matter the problem, refuse to lose. So, how you want it, man? You can choose. If you can't take the heat, don't light the fuse. See, I walk in slow and ignite the room. Like fire, everything I touch, I consume. I'm getting up while y'all just snooze. While you make breakfast, man, I'm on the move. I'm the first one in and the last one out. Whoever owns the place gotta drag me out. In me I trust, yeah, I smell like success, this Elon Musk, huh? Everybody wanna be like us, we don't stop, cause the top just ain't enough, huh? I ain't never gay, no, I ain't scared, man, you know black men don't blush, huh? Came here ready to fight on this night, you better just run for your life. Won't you come and see what it's like, living by the rules that you write. You ain't know those lavish delights, now you had no back in sight. All the little lies you recite, just makes all the savage unite. Usually I'm very polite, but I'ma get savage tonight. Even when a dog being nice, every single dog gonna bite. You might think I'm wrong, but I'm right. Just let it get a strong appetite. I'ma let it breathe just a little, give it to you strong, heavy metal. I don't make a sound when I strike. You better just run for your life. Run for your life.
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the WardRadio live stream. I am your host, Cardinellis, and today I am joined in the studio with a killer cast. We got everybody here today. We've got Hayden Paul. Oh, no, shoot. I pressed the wrong button. I'm sorry. We got Hayden Paul. Dang it.
How do you know your mic's on?
Because you know what? I didn't, because that's my fault. I didn't put him up right here.
You didn't turn. Oh, there we go. Hayden Paul. What's up, guys?
We got Hayden Paul. We got Mike Day and
Hi.
David Butler. All right, you guys got to get down on the same plane so the camera knows which one to focus on.
Uh-oh. So what does that mean?
So scoot back, Mike.
So you're gonna have to get really, really close to.
All right.
Did you bring a guitar?
By the
Brought
way,
a guitar to sing an opening hymn.
I feel like every time
This
I'm
is
on
Ward
YouTube or
Radio,
whatever,
and
they
you guys
tell me
never
to
have
close
opening
it.
hymns.
It's so weird.
An opening hymn? Is this gonna be super cringe?
No. It's
No?
going to be super bluesy, and you're going to sing with me.
Are you kidding me?
I am
We're
not kidding you.
actually doing this.
I'm going to teach you the chorus. That is
Oh
correct.
my goodness gracious!
Let's do it.
Okay, and then we also have Brad. Why am I not hearing you? Oh, that's why you weren't up either. Yeah,
Was I turned off too?
Yeah, you were turned off as well. And I'm gonna have to
here now.
turn. Is your camera on, Brad?
I think so. It looks like it's on.
No, it's not on because camera number 5 is blank. So just press
Oh.
the shutter button, and then we'll be able to. So you got, anyway, actually, no. I'll fix this all while I guess Dave is doing his thing. It is. Okay, so why don't you just give us a fine? I guess we'll call it an opening hymn. This is so bad, but
This is an
like,
opening hymn. What's bad about this? Why is this so bad, Carden?
Yeah, what do you have
We're
against
making
music,
a joyful
dude?
noise. We're making
you're
a
right.
joyful noise.
This is me. I'm the
Carden
problem.
fears.
You sound like the people in Footloose, but with music. It's like
That's
there's
true.
no dancing here.
That's true.
Gosh,
Prove
you
me
loser.
wrong, brother.
Okay,
Prove
let's
me
get
wrong.
it.
It's all
Okay.
you.
How's the song go?
So I'm going to sing the verses, but I need you guys to sing with me on the chorus. Okay? You will figure out the melody for the chorus. It's pretty straightforward. The words are, I'm large of stature, just like Nephi.
Okay, all right.
So say these with me. I'm large of stature.
I'm large of stature.
Just like Nephi.
Just like Nephi. Okay, cool.
Okay.
And everyone at home, you're singing too, no matter where you are.
Yeah. Big shout out here to one of my favorite church bands, the Koinonia, with their inimitable frontman, Joel Wallace.
I don't know any of that.
Well, you'll hear him one day. Layman and Lemuel at it again. Yeah, they're picking up sticks to beat me. Well, I know that the Lord will prepare a way, and they just cannot defeat me. Whoa, just as my vision starts to swim, here come an angel, kick down the door. Woo. He says, put the kid down, boys, it's time to go see Laban. We're rolling in the bountiful hammer to the floor, and I'm large of stature. Just like Nephi.
How you doing, Mike? How you doing, Mike?
Yeah.
Just like Nephi. Let's sing that one again. Here we go. Well, I'm
large of stature,
just like Nephi. Well,
I'm large of stature, just like Nephi.
Whoa, everyone's your friend. When bellies are full, you break your bow. Everybody's a critic. Well, my brothers can't hunt. They're loud and slow. Oh, and Dad's getting too arthritic. So I scrounge these hills for what I need. A staff of wood and a long straight stick. Well, I haven't seen a track for weeks, it doesn't really matter. I'll say a little prayer, now that'll do the trick, and I'm large of stature. Ha! Just like Nephi. Oh, I'm large of stature. Just like Nephi. And I know that the Lord is good to me. Yes,
Bridge,
I
baby.
do.
Woo.
Don't you know that the Lord is good to you?
This is awesome.
Well,
I thought it
they're
was the chorus.
whining again. They're saying Nephi's just out to rule us. What do you mean bountiful ain't the promised land? Well, how long did you think you could fool us? What's with that stupid bellows you made? And what do you know
can't
about
hide,
boats? Well, I'm not a blessed thing, boys, but I can take directions. I'll put her in the water, the Lord will
You
see
keep
she floats,
going.
and I'm large of stature.
Just
like Nephi, and I'm large of stature, just like Nephi.
Again, here we go, around the corner. I'm
Large of stature, just like Nephi. I'm large of stature, just like Nephi.
One last time, here we go.
I'm large of stature.
Just like Nephi. Yeah.
Everybody at home, sing out loud.
I'm large of stature,
We're just clipping.
just like Nephi.
Whoa!
That was epic.
All right, all right. Sorry, Brad. I don't know what's going on with your camera. We just got to look at you in the studio shot. So give a big shout out to the camera up there.
Hey, Brad, you want to come
The
sit over
studio
here?
shot,
Yeah,
you know?
sure. I'll swing over.
Well, now then I won't be able to focus on your face. I'll figure this out in the middle. We're gonna figure this out. I actually, unfortunately, I think it might be the cord.
Silly chords.
So anyway, wow.
That's an intro I bet you've never had before.
No, it's not. So you either got to lean back to have your nose at the same focal plane as him, or so just get comfortable there. See, yeah.
Because one's in focus, one's not.
One's in focus, one's not. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
And then
See,
scoot next
now
to him.
you guys
There we
look
go.
good.
The problem is he's like 6'9".
Also, I fidget, so I'm going to be spinning. I'm trying not to spin around.
You do move a lot.
I do move a
He's a
lot. I tend to
fidgeter.
kind of slouch in the frame, too, like this.
Yeah, dude, for real.
I'm going to hold still.
The actor that played Chewbacca had the same problem
Peter Mayhew.
on set. Yeah, exactly.
The fact that you know that, by the way, I knew that.
Peter
too.
Mayhew.
I'm deeply nerdy. If
Yeah.
you have not already ascertained this, let me confess to it now.
By the
Yeah.
way, when he died, I was sad.
I just said.
Yeah, so
like
anyway,
Peter Mayhew.
guys, wow, that was very stressful as an audio technician, I'll be honest.
Was I overloading the mic?
That was, yes.
Oh.
I don't know if it was the part or what, but
By the
yeah.
way, I was reading some of the comments, and somebody said they were cringing.
Oh,
I
dear.
caught that. The comments were
dear.
scrolling.
They
Are
said
those-
as
are
a
those-
musician, though, which is an okay kind of cringe.
But those are live comments that people are just saying stuff right
yeah.
now. Okay.
Yeah, that's how technology works.
I bet they
I've
were
never
cringing
been
by the mics themselves.
Just for that,
than
I'm going to
anything.
inflict another song on you later.
This is funny. This is funny. All right. So, anyway, as promised, guys, we're having a super cool live stream today. As we're just waiting for everybody to come in. Look, we serenaded you as you were coming in. Okay. Actually, I shouldn't say we. I should say Dave Butler serenaded us.
You all sang. Why are you
I was a
disowning that
holdout.
performance?
Yeah, it was.
Hayden and I were all in.
Oh, I was
Yeah.
in.
We were
for sure.
joined in on that.
Yeah.
That was a band.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So anyway, as you guys are all coming in, please make sure that you remember to like the stream if you can. Share it with your friends. Also, it's Sunday, so you don't feel like you got to super chat us. You know what I'm saying? Although if you got something burning that you got to say.
You're not supposed to spend money on,
You know what I'm
the
saying?
Sabbath, Carden.
Yeah, I know.
Even if it's on sick live streams.
See, that's what I'm saying. So I'm like, I mean, if you knee jerk do it, we're not going to judge you like Sadducees, but it's not a requirement in this stream. Just we're having fun on Sunday. It's a little bit more casual. Usually don't do live streams on Sundays, but there was an opportunity to actually sit down with and I mean the Mike Day and Dave Butler and talk some textual not criticisms, but evidences of the Book of Mormon and see what the real view of the Hebrews that proves the Book of Mormon to be true is.
That's an epic title.
So yeah, we had that opportunity and we're going to take it because that's what we do here at Ward Radio. So anyway, this is awesome. We're excited to be here. If you got any questions, ask away. Before we go any further, I am going to address just a couple of super chats that come in. Snagrit says Dave Butler has officially surpassed Don Bradley as the most interesting man in the world.
That is something.
Don Bradley is
Holy cow.
legendary. Whoever said
Jeez.
anything, seriously, Don is a legend.
Well, Don's gonna have to come back with something now, isn't he?
And by the way, Brad, you said you might let me meet him one day.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm going to hold you to that, bro.
Yeah, dude, he's like almost in my ward. He's in my brother-in-law's ward, or uncle-in-law's ward.
Your uncle-in-law's
Yeah,
ward?
my
Heck yeah.
uncle-in-law's ward.
Yeah,
He's
I'm a
right
huge
nearby,
fan.
actually.
I'm a huge fan of his stuff.
Yeah,
Okay,
me
cool.
too.
Rock on. And Jack Norton also says W in the chat for Dave. 52 churches in 52 weeks. Baptism? Question
Wait,
mark.
is he
How- this
actually
is-
getting baptized?
Oh,
What's
Guys,
going
Dave
on?
Boyce, he
David
got
Boyce.
baptized today.
What?
Wow.
Wait,
Yeah.
what?
The evangelical guy who's going around seeing all the churches.
Yes.
And he's like, wait, this one's interesting. And
Yeah.
now he joined it?
He joined
And he was
our church.
was he a pastor? Or was he just an evangelical? Like he was just curious.
I haven't really been following the story. I think he was more just curious. He's done this twice now, where he's going to 52 different churches on 52 different weeks, right? And he came to ours,
Yeah.
and was looking for light and truth, and boy, did he find it!
Dude,
so he
so
just joined.
Jackson sent he sent us this today. I didn't know
Okay.
that's what it was saying. Oh my gosh, I don't know how I missed this. I'll send it in the Discord right now. My brother Jackson, he
let's
can't be
put
here.
this in the Discord, man. Look at it's
Here it is.
always here first. You always find it here first. What do we know? So, do you stick it in the Discord, my man?
It is right here. Stephen Pinecker from Mormon Book Reviews posted. So this is a screenshot of a post of his where he talks about this David Boyce guy, which
Okay.
he did some pretty big videos that were like he went. I remember watching his first one. I didn't watch a ton of them after that, but what happened was he went to General Conference. He was doing 52 different churches, 52 different weeks. He goes to General Conference, and he was like blown away by it.
Really?
And and he's done a couple other videos about the church since then.
Okay.
But this is amazing. He got baptized. This is what everyone wanted Hello Saints
so
guy to do.
I'm reading.
Jeff.
I'm reading this right now. So I guess this is our proof right here. We don't like just flying off the handle here, but it looks like Mormon Book Reviews Pinecker here.
Yeah, so Stephen Pinecker in the front, and then the guy in the back there is David Boyce.
Yeah, so he says, my friend David Boyce of 52 Churches in 52 Weeks was baptized into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints yesterday. David visited over 100 churches for both his book and YouTube channel. Before the critics start attacking him, I want us all in the Evangelical camp to self-reflect on why this happened. Dave visited many evangelical churches during his journey, including Reformed, Lutheran, Baptist, Charismatic, non-denominational, and many others. I didn't know that this happened until someone commented on a video I released yesterday on the Utah Interfaith Forum YouTube channel. I'm not surprised it happened. I love David. He is my friend. Wow.
That's pretty crazy.
Holy smoke.
I wonder what Pinecker means by when he says we should reflect on why this happened.
Yeah.
Like, is he saying like we got to do better, guys, because we lost another one or something?
Well,
like,
no,
I think he's saying like he's looking at this from the point of view of a guy who's knowing that there's a lot of people in the evangelical community who are not thrilled with Latter-day Saints, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he's just trying to use language that's gonna like not make them mad because he's really happy.
Guys,
for
it's
his
a
friend.
cautionary tale if you're an evangelical.
we'll get ya.
Maybe he's just expressing his awe at the spiritual allure of the Book of Mormon. We should reflect upon why this happened. It's because the Book of Mormon is so great.
Yeah.
It's true.
So, really fast, do you have any church leadership positions?
Me?
Dave Butler, yeah.
You
I mean, with hair and a jacket like that, I doubt it.
you're saying you don't expect to see me in a bishopric?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
my
He's actually
resume
stake president.
goes no higher than first counselor in the elders quorum, and I am not presently in that role. I am
So look, we're going to give you a calling.
Okay,
for the
good.
rest of this live
Yes.
stream, you get to be in the bishopric itself. And you get to welcome new members to the chat.
very good. Very good.
You know, this should be Brad, but Brad unfortunately doesn't have a camera or a computer in front of him.
Very good.
Actually, wait, Brad, can you can still read the super chats on your computer, right?
Yeah, I can read stuff on my computer.
Okay, if you could keep us up on the chats
I'll
that
just
come.
be a voice.
So calling
today.
revoked once again, Dave.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, we're gonna
I'll
let
be
him
the
live
elders
the
quorum
life.
secretary
Wait,
in this ward too. That's fine.
If
Yeah.
I put on a jacket, does that mean I don't have to do this?
Yes. So well, no, Dave's gonna do it. I'm making good on my promise.
Okay, so hold on. So what do I need to be reading off the screen over here?
Yeah. So you just have to welcome Latter-day Watch into the WardRadio wigwam because they have purchased a membership.
Sisters and brothers, let's welcome Latter-day Watch into the WardRadio wigwam. Everyone who can manifest with a W
With a
in
W
the
in the chat.
Thank
Yes,
you very much.
manifest
W in
with
the
a
chat, baby.
W.
This is not my
in
first
the
time here.
chat. And thank you very much, Latter-day Watch. All right. So anyway, guys, let's jump right in. The title of this live stream here. I mean, most everybody that's going to be here is here now. So thank you, everybody that's joining us. We got a lot of concurrent viewers right now, so you better be on your best behavior. There's 600 people watching so far, and it's growing, my man. So tell us, what is the evidence, the view of the Hebrews that proves that the Book of Mormon is true? This is a cute play on words. I dig it, my man. Go.
Mike, what do you want to talk about here? Should we talk about kind of an introduction to the Deuteronomists?
Yeah, so the way I kind of pitch it is
'Kay.
religion is like a soup, or imagine like when the ocean comes and hits the sand. You live by the ocean. When it hits the sand, there's this froth, and it's always moving. You never step in the same ocean twice. Like you get in and it's changing, and you get out and you're getting back in and it's changing. Everything's changing.
Yeah.
And so this idea that there's this monolithic view that the people that lived in Israel, that they all had this monolithic view, basically is undone the second you start seriously reading what the Bible says.
Yeah.
And so the first time I was really introduced to this idea, I was 12, and I was at this lady's house, and she's like, look at this. It says that no man can see God and live. And I was 12, and I wasn't an expert, but I read the next page where it says, Moses spoke to the Lord face to face. And I said, so on this page it says this, on this page it says this, these are opposites. And that was the first time at age 12 where I started to realize the Bible is kind of messy. I'm 12. Mm-hmm. And then I've spent the rest of my life, I'm not 12 anymore, the rest of my life trying to unpack this. And so what we need to realize is that the Bible takes a long time to be put together to be textualized, and there's historical fights over what is reality. What's the reality? Who's in charge? Who has the priesthood? Who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? And the power plays move and switch. And as I believe, often history is written by those who have won that battle. And so there's a big battle before Lehi's time period about these people trying to consolidate power, centralize worship, and get the story straight. And because they're doing
like
this,
the exact same thing that's happening nowadays.
Exactly.
That happens always and everywhere. History is written by the winners, right? This is a fundamental human social phenomenon. Another way to think about this is to say the Bible, this is challenging to think about this because it's not how we talk about it in anybody's church, because this is a difficult thing to come to grips with from the pulpit. But the Bible speaks with more than one voice. And in fact, the Bible argues with itself.
Yes.
On questions like, can you see God?
Does he have a body?
Who is allowed to perform sacrifices? Yeah, what is the nature of God? Where do you worship perform sacrifices? Right, exactly.
What is he? What's his name?
And I think that, I mean, this is contrary to what our evangelical brothers and sisters, who we love so much, and even our Catholic brothers and sisters understand, is like, I think a lot of times the understanding is, it is coming from one clear voice. The Bible is just one monolithic voice that is speaking to us, and it's completely one-sided and comprehensible. But what you're saying is that there is a war going on, a war of ideas.
So is this the why? Is this the why Pinecker's talking about here?
I don't know.
Is this we need to talk about why this happened? It was everything. It was what you guys are saying now, huh?
I will tell you this, that there's an evangelical scholar named Peter Enns. He wrote the book called The Bible Tells Me So, and he's talking about this stuff too. Now, he got in trouble where he was teaching because he's like reading the Bible as a text, like this is what it's saying. What I'm saying, I think, as a Latter-day Saint, you can read the Bible and be faithful, but also realize everything in there is not one story. There's different stories and different plays happening. And as a Latter-day Saint, for me, my best read of the Bible is to read it through the lens of the Book of Mormon. If I use that as my lens, it helps for me bring things into focus and let other things be in the background. Kind of how at the beginning of this episode where you said, Mike, you're too close to the screen and one of us was out of focus. That's kind of how I see the Bible. There's things in the front and there's things in the back. And how do I know what to pick? It depends on what lens you use. The lens matters.
And I think, Hayden, I appreciate your comments sort of saying, hey, listen, the conventional Christian view of the Bible is that it's univocal. It has one voice. I think this is also the conventional LDS view of the Bible.
And the Book of Mormon as well,
we're
too.
Different. Yeah, I don't think that we're any different. And part of that is just, man, the Bible is a big book. And if you are in a pastoral role and you're trying to exhort people to be good and follow God and whatever, you already have the challenge of getting your arms around the whole Bible. And if you are LDS, heaven help you, you have a whole bunch of other books too, right? Trying to sort through, wait a minute, what do I do with the fact that some of these books actually disagree within themselves and with each other just makes it really complicated. So this may sound to you like Mike, especially Mike, but also Dave, is saying crazy radical things.
Mike, though, for sure.
But especially, look at that guy as the face of a radical. So the thing is, that's because this is we've never come to grips with this from the pulpit. Like we, Christendom, have never really come to grips with this. Now, in academia, this is commonplace. If we were sitting here and talking to grad students I mean, this is like a 101
What's
class.
commonplace? Just cynicism like what?
Yeah, cynicism and despair.
or just read any good scholarly.
I can't be real. It's fake. Why? Because I don't look cool if I say it.
Not that it's fake, but if you read any scholarly Bible dictionary and you just start reading, or you take an introduction to the Old Testament in a college, this stuff is easy to
like
see.
One of those colleges that said like 6 feet will stop the spread. One of those colleges.
Yeah. Well,
I love your skepticism. The idea. I think the idea specifically, and Mike, you're much better steeped in source criticism than I am. But the idea specifically that of the Deuteronomist movement. As sort of the late, maybe last editor of the Old Testament. I think it goes back to an 1802 commentary on Deuteronomy. It's not a new idea, and it's very widespread.
Okay. So just really fast.
Yeah.
Before this gets too verbose and too techy, and you bore us to tears as badly in this part as you did in our opening song.
So hard.
I'm totally just kidding.
So hold on while I weep.
Dude,
No, but just
Dirk Jensen literally right before this just said, Cardin is a great host. His kindness is legendary. And then you go out with that.
No, I'm totally just kidding with you. No, actually, just like the New York Times is what I was really saying.
Okay.
But just like the New York Times is written for a fifth grader, right? How would you describe what would, just for people that are tuning in right now that
Can
didn't
I
have
translate?
a chance to see her? Yeah. Just really quickly, just give us a fast overview of what the who the Deuteronomists were, really fast, why this matters, and Jonah Barnes, who's the associate professor of all things apocryphal, big friend of the show that's been on here many times, is writing a book where he believes, just as Don Bradley compiled a lot of what is in the lost 116 pages based on all the interviews and the archaeological and the sociological and the anthropological research that he did. He's been able to kind of recompile the lost 116 pages. Jonah Barnes believes that Lehi was using an apocryphal Genesis and that, quote, the most important book of our religion is one we haven't read yet. And he's been able to reconstruct Lehi's apocryphal Genesis. So, like, that's his little sentence, right?
Yeah.
So what's your little sentence about who the Deuteronomists are and why they matter so much to critics and believers in the Book of Mormon?
Shall I take a stab at it?
I think he asked you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Or you.
first
the
of all,
other smart guy.
understand that we don't have any documents saying love signed the Deuteronomists. Okay.
Okay.
So they're a hypothetical reconstruction.
Kind of like Gnostics.
But here's what happens: one of the last kings of the kingdom of
You
Judah.
drink a lot of water, by the way,
I'm
Mike.
constantly thirsty.
Like,
He pees a lot, too. He's
because-
probably going to have to get up
bro,
a few
It's
times.
because I'm hot, Cardin.
Yeah.
Over here, it's
We had-
20 degrees.
we had
as
to
soon
stop-
as he started singing, I was like, I gotta have a
We had to
drink.
stop 25 times on the way down to let Mike pee.
Yeah, that's correct.
Bladder's this big.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So this is a reconstructed group. Okay.
Okay, like the Gnostics, no joke.
Sure. No one said. Well, some people talk about the
Because
gnosis.
didn't we name the Gnostics
But yeah,
basically after we found
yes,
the Dead Sea
we-
Scrolls?
Well, yeah. So we identified people that have similar ideas and a constant theme of a gnosis, and we say these are Gnostic people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the basic point. King Josiah is one of the last kings of Judah. He is a reforming king.
Right before Lehi.
Yeah, right
Ish.
during Lehi's life, right?
Cool.
So he's off the stage by the time First Nephi starts. So his he enforces dramatic change. When I say dramatic change, I mean he goes around smashing up the sacred things of the kings before him and killing people who disagreed with him religiously. Okay? And the agenda he wants to enforce seems to be associated with or allied with the agenda in the book of Deuteronomy. So the basic theory is that Deuteronomy is maybe it's composed late, or maybe it's edited into its final form late, and it's sort of the charter of these people who set about to violently rewrite the religion of ancient Israel, forbidding things that everybody had been doing until this very moment, okay? Worshipping at their local holy places, performing their own sacrifices, other kinds of things, okay?
I have a list. I bet when you're done, I'll go through
I'd love to hear the list.
I'll rattle off my list.
And they rewrote the record. So the idea is that they're not the first, but they're maybe the last or near the last editorial voice. And so they write especially the historic books, which I think includes Joshua, right? So Joshua through Kings and Chronicles to match their agenda. So all the kings who do what the Deuteronomists want, like Hezekiah, are great and noble and good, and those who don't are evil. And so we literally have the winners writing history to suit them. They also tinker with other books. It's widely thought that Jeremiah, for example, has been significantly altered by the Deuteronomists. What we have is
Really?
a
Oh,
Deuteronomist
interesting.
version
Okay.
of Jeremiah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
and if that was if they altered the existence of Jeremiah, that would affect greatly the Book of Mormon, because that's one of the first prophets that's mentioned.
well, let's come
and
back.
I saw why.
Or Book of Mormon, or the Book of
Yeah.
Mormon sets the record straight. And
Yeah.
I think if I were to summarize it all in one for stupid people like me, is essentially at the time of Lehi, there was a group of people who were trying to centralize religious and political power in a way where they had full control. And those same people smashed any dissidents in a violent way. And Lehi, it seems by the text of the Book of Mormon and the opening story of the Book of Mormon that Lehi was one of those dissident members of society who was speaking up against the same people who edited the Old Testament.
And by the way, their changes are in direct opposition to everything, literally a list of First Nephi 1.
Let's
so
hear your list. This is
First
awesome.
Nephi 1 is
Rock on.
First Nephi 1 is the basically like this to the Deuteronomists.
So
If you believe that Joseph naturally just came up with it at 23, he's addressing the historians' changing of the theology of Israel in the context of 600 BC. He's understanding the arguments, he's understanding their position, and he's writing, making up out of his head the answer to the Deuteronomists, and he's compacting them all within First Nephi 1.
Before the relevant scholarship
Before it
had
was
been
even
done.
produced.
And before the scholars had even found this out.
Before Wellhausen and Gunkel and these guys are having these conversations
Good old
after
Gunkel.
Joseph's dead in Nauvoo.
Yeah,
So
Gunkel.
this
Wait,
Come on,
does anybody else say Gunkel?
It might be Gunkel.
I've got a Gant and a
I'm from
Gunkel.
Utah. I call him Gunkel, and I, you know, I
Wellhausen
what
and
are you
Gunkel,
even
you know,
talking
everybody
about?
knows.
What's a gunkle? What?
A Gunkel.
Sorry,
Hermann
Brad,
Gunkel.
you were
German
saying
scholar.
Like
you
your
were,
Gant, your Gant, uncle. It's like
Your
Gunkel.
your
You
Gunkel.
know, you've never,
You've gone
you've
through
never heard that
Gunkel.
before.
I haven't
I
heard
have
that.
Oh, dude, that is hilarious.
I don't know if that's
yeah.
real.
everything I say.
Brad, you were going to say something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
is
so,
correct.
so something I want to
Both
say
of
about
those
this, I think this is really fascinating because I've seen people make the criticism of the Book of Mormon that, oh, well, Joseph didn't even write Nephi and Lehi like they're Jewish,
Oh.
you know?
Well, they're the OG Jew from a certain point of view.
Yeah, exactly.
And I shouldn't say OG. They're the Jewish point of view
the OG.
of the OG. They're the Jewish point of view of someone who is in the disenfranchised position who believes in visions. And so it's a position, and Joseph, if he's writing it, if this is just out of his head, he's creatively writing it, addressing all the things that later scholars are going to find is the issue at that time.
He's
at exactly
he's a trailblazer.
600 BC.
Yes, at that time period.
So he's writing Nephi and Lehi as Jews within their context.
Yes, which
Well,
is
in fact-
brilliant
in
for a
fact, let's be-
23-year-old.
Let's be a little more precise, right? So, as apparently citizens of the kingdom of Judah, of the tribe of Manasseh, and one of the or the sort of standard name that Nephi uses for the people who appear to be in control, who are exerting power, who are trying to defeat his father and kill him, are the Jews who were at Jerusalem, which suggests to me the Judahites, the royal tribe who controlled the military and the priesthood and all the centralized apparatus resulting from
temple.
Josiah's reign, including the temple, right? So Nephi does say, he talks about, when Second Nephi, he refers to Jews, and he says, I mean those of which I came, right? Which I think suggests that it's his relationship with the word Judah or Jew is a little
muddled.
ambiguous, right? It's a little complex,
Interesting. Yeah.
right? So maybe we should think of them not as Jews, but for example, the Epistle of Hebrews is written to somebody who are apparently Hebrews, but not maybe Jews, and maybe that's a way to think about these guys. Is they're part of the kingdom of Judah.
Yeah, technically speaking,
Hebrews,
Jews are the
Israelites.
Judahites, right?
That's right, and I think it's Josephus who tells us that the name Jew comes into usage after the Babylonian captivity. The Book of Mormon shows us that it comes into usage maybe a century earlier than that. Yeah.
Let me give you just a softball pitch. Go to the very first verse, and this isn't just Mike
First
Day.
verse of what, brother?
Deuteronomy chapter 1, and this isn't Mike Day like making this up. This is competent Jewish scholarship. So if you read like Adele Berlin's the JPS Bible or the Tanakh, they even talk about this in their commentaries. Look in verse 1. These be the words, Debarim. These be the words which Moses spake unto all Israel on this side Jordan. Now we know from the record that Moses doesn't cross Jordan. At least that's what it says. Well, when it says on this side Jordan, that's the King James translators translating the word which means on the other side of Jordan. So let me put this in your head. and the Jews are talking about this. They're like, something's wrong. This is a text that was written on the west side of Jordan, saying these are the words that Moses spake on the other side of Jordan, on the east side.
Okay.
Am I making sense? So from the very first verse, biblical scholars are looking at this saying,
Moses didn't write this.
Something's afoot at the Circle K. Like right here, we know that this is a little bit janky.
Are there Circle Ks in Utah?
That's a quote from Bill and Ted's.
Certainly,
Bill and Ted's is like the
yeah.
ultimate film.
Yeah,
Socrates is my hero.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but are there Circle Ks in Utah?
There should be, but there's Mavericks.
I don't know if there have been
Yeah.
for a while.
So
Circle K is like a 7-Eleven.
Something's afoot at the Circle K. And then it says it again in verse 5 on this side Jordan, which is literally on the other side. And it kind of says it throughout the text. So the very first thing we're reading is like, okay, something's janky about this. This is written on the west side. These be the words that Moses spake on the other side. So scholars look at this and say, this must have been textualized on the west side post Moses' death, translation, whatever. So then I'll go through my list briefly. And this could be like, I could bore your people, but I love this stuff. So
here are the changes they make.
Look, anything's better than that opening hymn. So just
okay. So chapter 12.
I am more determined than ever to sing another one.
That song was
If it's
for
not
you.
tonight, it's tomorrow morning. I've got a song called "Down by the Waters of Sebus" that I'm going to play for you.
okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay,
Awesome.
so number one on my list is Deuteronomy 12. Deuteronomy 12 is basically like we could do a whole hour show on Deuteronomy 12.
Okay.
But basically it says, there shall be no other altars made except for the place where God shall choose to put his name, Hashem. The name of God is where the temple, where God dwells. The name of God.
Where the
not,
name
not,
dwells.
God doesn't dwell there, but the name does. So it's called name theology, is what they call this, is that Deuteronomy is saying God is not corporeal. He cannot be seen because you cannot see him. And there's actually a verse in Deuteronomy where God says to Moses, do you remember how you said you saw me? You actually didn't see me. That didn't happen, okay? Because no one can see me. In fact, and then there's a verse in there that says, if anyone says they've had visions, you got to kill those guys. Like, I can show you where this is. And so Deuteronomy 12 is like, no altars except for where God shall choose to put his name. Now, the understanding of that is that location is
Only the Temple of Jerusalem.
Only in Jerusalem.
You cannot build an altar anywhere else. Now, what's the problem with that?
everything.
All of the patriarchs built altars.
Abraham,
everywhere.
Isaac, and Joseph, Jacob did it wherever they wanted, right? What's the position of the Book of Mormon on that?
It seems to be.
That's the first thing
Do it
Lehi
wherever you
does.
want.
It seems to be. This is Lehi goes down to the Valley of Lemuel, and 3 times he offers sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right. So we have Lehi lining up with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob against the Book of Deuteronomy.
Yeah.
The other thing that's really interesting, and what I find to be very compelling, because I was talking to Pastor Jeff, who does
Hello Saints.
Hello Saints, and I asked him, I was like,
The
hey,
non-baptized pastor.
the non-baptized pastor.
Okay, cool.
And so
The one with a sweet pompadour.
nice hair,
The
really
one who,
awesome guy.
who loves the worship music.
And I love,
He probably has good music in
yeah,
his
he
congregation.
does have good music.
His
I love
worship
Pastor
master's
Jeff.
probably
Pastor
great.
Jeff's awesome, and I asked him, I was like, what's the biggest issue for you with the Book of Mormon? And he said, the anachronisms. And I'm like, oh, so like horses, chariots, stores, whatever. And he's like, no, the fact that it talks about Christ and that it talks about like the Son of God coming down in such a plain manner. And he's like, this is happening in Old Testament times. We don't find any of that in the Old Testament. Well, one of the claims that they're saying right here is that they started to de-anthropomorphize God, meaning they started to take away God's body. Because the idea
And
of
make him
God,
Greek, yeah.
Yes, the idea of God having a body was bad for them. And so even though it says that Moses saw God face to face.
Yeah, let me read this verse.
Yeah,
Deuteronomy
read the verse.
4:11 and 12. Deuteronomy 4:11 says, "And ye came near and stood under the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire unto the midst of heaven, with darkness, clouds, and thick darkness. And the Lord spake unto you out of the midst of the fire. You heard his voice, the voice of his words, but saw no similitude, only a voice." And so Deuteronomy insists that you cannot see God. Why? Because it's where his name dwells. Certainly you can't see
And
him.
what's the original
Well,
reference?
Exodus 24, the elders of Israel go up the mountain and see God and have a feast with him.
Now, I'm really careful to say original
they
like
eat
it's
food
complicated.
with
Yeah.
him?
It is
But
shocking.
the one
They
I know
say
first.
they eat food with him,
Yeah.
and they reduce that to you only heard his
you
voice.
only heard his voice.
Trust
Wait,
me,
what is
bro.
that reference, bro? I want to
Exodus
see.
24.
Exodus
Yeah.
24. So I guess the main point is that there seems to have been an editing where this idea of having God having a body, which that is Christ. Christ is the Son of God taking on a mortal frame and coming down and giving salvation, right?
Dude, you're right. Here it is really fast. Just a side note reference. It's Exodus 24. I guess it is 9. Then went up Moses, Aaron, Nabab, Ebuhu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and they saw the God of Israel, and there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone, and as it were, a body of heaven in his clearness. And they did eat and drink. Yeah, wow.
So they see his feet. So God has a body, and they're getting rid of God's body. And that's one of the things that Lehi and they see God. Lehi, the very first vision he has, what does he see? He sees God upon his throne.
He also sees stars, which is another on this list here.
Yeah.
And by the way, this idea of an ascent, because Moses and Joshua then ascend further behind the cloud, i.e. veil, onto the top of Mount Sinai. This 3-part ascent, in the middle part of which there is a feast with God, is a piece we may talk about later in this conversation or later, maybe tomorrow. It's part of an ordinance that is dear to the Nephites, that is inherited by Christians, but again, that is actually being explicitly denied here by the book of Deuteronomy.
Okay, so really fast, just before we go any further, since we don't have super chats, and this is
Whoa,
Sunday.
what's super chats? Is that what is that?
People pay $5 to say,
Yeah,
tell
people
Mike
pay
he's
like-
handsome.
Yeah, exactly.
There were a couple super chats.
Tell
I saw
Dave
a couple
he
of super
sucks.
chats.
Oh, did some super
Apparently.
chats come in?
Man, I'm learning
Are
so
you wanting
much.
to
So
read them,
first
or
of
do
all,
we
this is
just not
live.
wanna read them
Second
to
of all,
encourage
there's
it
super
during-
chats.
This is live.
Third, Dave can play the guitar.
Yes.
I've learned a lot.
So actually, Brad, if you could just catch us
sing
up on
like
the super
Howlin'
chats.
Wolf.
It is a Sunday, so you guys don't have to give us super chats. This is actually what I figured out is this is a reward for all of our members. You know what I'm saying? If you're a member of the channel, we're going to do our best to read some of your better comments. Brad's going to be checking those out for us. And so a couple of super chats did sneak through, though, so I don't want to completely neglect them. Could you read those really fast?
Yeah, so we got Prince Mustache. It says, it's Japan here. It's Monday for me, so I can super chat all day, which is awesome.
Baller move.
You know what? I got no problems with that, bro.
No more Shalom Shabbat.
It's like
awesome.
it's
That's
like
right.
in Provo at like midnight when the Denny's opens. How on
That's
Sunday
right.
night
Is
everybody
it crazy?
Global 1 a.m.
Yeah.
What
dude, it's
what's
pretty
hot to eat at Danny's at 12:01?
Dude, Grand Slam anytime.
good. Well, you're drinking so much water, like
I'm
you know what
thirsty.
I'm saying. You
right,
gotta
the
be
bathroom.
hungry.
By the way, I'm out of water. Do you have more water? Because I'm drinking this. What is this crap?
Yeah, 500 yen. What is 500 yen?
That's like $2 whole, dude.
Hey.
I have no idea. Actually.
Either that or
I
else
think
it's
it's like
a lot.
$5.
So what did our friend in Japan say? Just that it's Monday. That's it.
Yeah, and they can super chat all day. Sherry gave us a super chat that I don't see anything with, so no text with that. Thank you, Sherry. Next up, we got Joshua Williams saying, Mike, David, and Hayden are the Holy Trinity. Carden, you can be Adam.
All right.
Adam, that's a very
Does that mean they get to
exalted
see me naked
Yeah.
in my garden?
Please, no.
No, that was Noah.
Please, no.
That's why we drove down.
Yeah.
Here. That's why
With
we
all
came
that
down.
music he was playing, I was ready to take it off, baby.
Oh, my gosh.
You know what I'm saying? All right, keep going.
Oh, we got Matthew X with a update on us. He says, I got my rebaptism date. It'll be April 20th. Keep up the great work, WardRadio.
Heck yeah, Matthew. Congratulations.
Yeah, Matthew.
Good job, man.
Killer
That's
job,
awesome.
dude.
Boom, boom.
That's awesome.
Sweet.
By the way, I
okay.
sat in a car for 10 hours with Brad. I can feel your positivity. I feel already happier just being around you, bro.
Thanks, man.
You're so positive.
Thank you. Next up, we got Lenzo. I've watched every show since Midnight Mormons. I also watched Stick of Joseph and Talking Scriptures, but I work 2 jobs and never hot live streams. I think maybe catch live streams.
Never catch live streams.
Never catch
okay?
live
got
streams.
this one.
Welcome to this one.
Lenzo.
Woot.
Yeah.
Way to work 2 jobs. I know that I feel your pain. I know what that's like. It's hard.
Yeah, dude. Well, you're a
Working
seminary
hard.
teacher, bro. Church
Yeah.
doesn't
Okay.
pay you guys enough.
Working hard, man.
Maybe if
Okay.
they paid you more, we wouldn't have so many rogue ones teaching false doctrine.
Crap.
It's just like, you know, it's
I'm
just
so
like
sorry.
you have to pay a
No,
police
Mike,
officer
you're
so
not
they
one
don't
of them.
I
become
just feel
corrupt.
bad every time I hear something bad about a seminary teacher. It breaks my heart.
Actually, all the seminary teachers I've met have been really cool. But see, I was one, but we were the real kind of seminary
The
teachers
ones that actually grind
that actually got to wake up in the morning and be there at like 6:30.
and be excited.
With the real seminary students that actually have to sacrifice and
Yeah.
show up before school starts.
Yeah,
They don't get like PE credit and half a credit of history or whatever.
exactly.
Yeah. So
hard.
anyway, keep
Hard.
going.
All right. Next up, we got Eric Harper. I have been watching this podcast a couple months ago, and you have no idea how this podcast has helped me on having back my passion on the gospel doctrine since I was in the mission 20 years ago. Thanks.
Oh,
Dude,
wow.
Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you so much.
You sinful prick. Oh my gosh. Sending money on the Sabbath? WTF. No, I'm totally just kidding. If you
Holy cow.
Oh my gosh.
Dude.
This is something we were talking about on the drive down.
Pardon, aggressive,
if you
totally
haven't
friendly audience member.
Yeah, if you haven't figured out.
Who gave you money?
Hey, he got me too. Okay,
Eric,
he went after
Eric,
me too.
send your
I feel
Venmo.
your pain.
Send your Venmo in here. He's sending that $20 back.
No, actually, Eric, if you haven't figured out, that was a contrarian surprise, as it's called in comedy. Yeah, see,
A
there we
technical
go.
name makes it okay.
See, I'm explaining. I'm giving you a little bit of the secret sauce. I actually thought the music that you sang was great. It's awesome. I'm jealous of your talent. But if I were to sit here and just say, "Oh, I think it's great and it's awesome," and I'm jealous of your talent, none of us would have laughed.
That's true.
But if
That's
I make
fair.
fun of you this entire podcast, then we all laughed. And
That's
there's some.
true.
By the way,
see-
that's how guys talk to each other.
And
Yeah, exactly.
I've
So-
done it
Mock each
before.
other.
You know I
So
can take it.
Eric gets this. He's a cool guy. He gets this. And you know what, Eric? Send us your address. Send us your address, and we're gonna give you a shirt, bro. Just
Is it going to say ungrateful?
no,
Or-
sinful.
Is it going to say what you called him?
Just no. Eric's a cool guy. He gets a free
I'm not
shirt
going
just
to
for
say
putting
it so
up
I
with
don't
that.
get clipped.
And then, anyway, gets a free
one
shirt.
cool thing about what he said.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this on the drive down.
Like what I said?
No, you didn't say anything cool. No, what Eric Harper said when he said it brought back his passion for the gospel and doctrine since his mission 20 years ago. We were talking about how important it is to actually get passionate about the gospel and get excited about the things that you're learning, because you know how God talks about how he would that we were either hot or cold, and that if we're lukewarm, he'll spew us out of his mouth, right? That's loosely what the scripture says there. I think getting passionate about the gospel is a way that we can make sure that we are in that vein of being either hot or cold. That movement of being passionate about things lets you be corrected and repent if you get something wrong along the way in your exuberance, but you're learning and moving forward. And I think that that's a really important
Like sending
aspect.
super chats on Sundays?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Now you will never do it
Absolutely.
again.
Do you have to pay money to send a super chat, or do you just type in "I hereby super chat"? It's like when Michael Scott declares bankruptcy. Is that how it works?
You pay money. You pay money.
Yeah, you
money?
pay real money.
So if I'm
Actual
paying money to
dollar.
super chat and then you don't read my super chat, I kind of feel like I got a raw deal.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
they read them.
So,
this
Brad,
next
you serve
super
a great
chat
purpose.
is pretty
You go-
good.
you go
This is a
through
good
these.
question. The next one.
Yeah, this one from Thyatas Ashadarawish. I butchered that. It says, does this mean that the Samaritan temple on Mount Gerizim could have been a legit temple? It existed around 500 BC.
Yeah, so when you get into the place where Yahweh shall choose to put his name, the Samaritan text actually reads different. And their contention is, no, we are the legit heirs of what's true. Now, we have the same kind of conflict going on after Joseph's dead. We have different groups saying, no, we're the real Slim Shady. And we have other people saying, no, I'm the real Slim Shady. And the Spider-Man meme is appropriate here because at the end of the day, how are you going to figure it out?
How do you know all this cool Eminem references?
I've been hanging out
and
with these guys
Spider-Man references,
for like
but you
10
don't know what a
hours.
super chat is,
real
bro.
stuff.
I've never heard of a super chat. But you see what I'm saying?
Because
Like,
he's been teaching institute and seminary. So
But this is what religion does. Religious discourse is like, okay, what does this mean? And they say, no, it's me. And the other guys say, no, it's me. And this is why it's difficult.
Or
So
please stand up.
yeah,
Please stand up.
Exactly.
I have a question. I have a question for you.
Before you ask the question,
Yeah.
can you get your oppressive Gatorade bottle out of the frame on your camera?
Yeah.
There we are. Yeah. Okay.
So, my question is, who are the Samaritans? Are the because some of them, as far as I understand, are the Assyrians that stayed around after they sacked Samaria, right? And then
Assyrians?
or sorry, the Assyrians.
No,
Yeah,
after,
some of them are the Assyrians, not the.
It depends on who you talk to.
Yeah.
And
So
I
are
think-
they Jews?
and I
Are
think-
they from the northern tribe?
I think
Or-
we're going to give different answers, but let me just say this. How do the Samaritans respond to Jesus at the end of the story of the woman at the well?
Yeah, they're like, why are you talking to us?
But at the end, what happens?
They
The whole city's
are
converted to
down.
Jesus.
Oh, because they're looking for the Messiah.
And they recognize him. How do the Jews in Jerusalem respond to him? They kill him. So what I'm saying is, when you read the diss on the Samaritans, who are you reading it from?
It's the people who killed Jesus.
Do you see my point?
Yeah,
So it
that's
all
actually-
depends on what perspective you read it from.
Well, this is actually this is what I was
That's
going to say with
interesting.
respect to the question: was the Samaritan temple in Mount Gerizim
Or legit
legitimate?
one.
Is the question, right? Like,
Yeah.
well, legitimate in whose point of view? Like the point of view of Deuteronomy is nothing is legitimate but Jerusalem.
But it doesn't say Jerusalem.
The Samaritan, it doesn't actually say that. It just
See?
says, yeah, where God shall put his name. I think that a version, at least, of the book of Deuteronomy is in the Samaritan Torah, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so I suspect they probably have the same verse, and what they understand it to mean is that that Mount Gerizim is the only authentic one.
Yes.
So these are two competing stories. I think one of the things we are led to imagine by the sort of theory of the Deuteronomists is there was a time when the kingdoms of Judah or Israelites in the area around about might have seen them both as legitimate. Might have seen multiple
but you would,
legitimate worship centers
even
of
you
God.
saying that, I think some people would get mad at you.
Well, I say things that make some people mad at me.
But
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with you. But what I'm saying is, like, this was really like a tangible thing they got ticked about. So, and I forget
Yes.
the year, and I'm gonna butcher his name, but this high priest named John Hyrcanus basically hires some homeboys to go to Gerizim and like drink their milkshake. They wreck it, they destroy it, they burn it to the ground, and they do it in the hopes that now that we burnt your temple down, now you're going to all fall in line and come to Jerusalem.
So he's one of the Hasmonean kings,
Yeah.
right? So he's like circa 140 BC or something like
right
that.
before Jesus-ish.
Yeah.
And the Samaritans are like, no, homie, don't play that. We're not going to your temple. And they're mad. You see what I'm saying?
I
And
love
these
your
guys
language.
hate each other. And there's like palpable, like, we don't like you going
I
on
am
here.
going to go on Fiverr. Or maybe I'm going to
Okay, I
call
don't even
the
know what
come
Fiverr is, bro.
No, okay. Fiverr
It's a
is
website.
it's like Upwork, like freelancer.com.
You know the interweb?
Where
I don't
you
even
put
know what you're
real
talking about.
money
Okay. Look,
on the internet.
I'm going to talk to the Thumb Follow Me guys, and I'm going to see if they can't animate that
Animate
section.
that bit. Awesome.
That whole section where you're just like, yeah. No, and so they came and they drank his milkshake. But then the Samaritan said, no, homie, don't play that way.
So
You know what I'm
this, so this is really interesting because what you're saying is that all Christians should be somewhat dubious of the Old Testament in
Careful
some
with
degree.
it.
Be
Be careful
careful
with
with
Yes.
it because
Yeah.
all the people who wrote the Old Testament
Have an
rejected
agenda.
Jesus and killed him.
So,
well,
a question
they-
I have.
they all have
I
an
mean,
agenda.
Well, now you start sounding like Martin Luther.
I've got a
On
True.
the Who
Yeah,
in their
yeah,
lives?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, I mean, let's be careful with this, right?
Maybe
You
that's
know?
too far, but okay. So I guess this: we should be careful about what it says in the Old Testament about certain groups, especially when we talk about how when he's talking to the woman at the well, she's looking for the Messiah. She's like, when the Messiah comes, so she's obviously looking forward to the Messiah, and then she recognizes him, and the Old Testament has nothing but bad things to say about the Samaritans, right?
So this is actually a point I was going to make, and I know, Brad, you got a comment there. The question about, hey, don't the Samaritans come from
Syria.
aren't they the population that when the kingdom of the northern kingdom's people were moved out, the Assyrians moved someone else in? Well, that's the story. But again, the question is who tells that story and to what end?
And what does the
Because
archaeology
that's not
say?
the Samaritans' story.
Yes.
Their story is that what their name is from the verb shamar in Hebrew, and they're the ones who are the shomrim, the keepers of the ancient covenant and the ancient truth. And that they were not the ones who were moved out, that they were excluded, that the people that came back from the Babylonian exile, kingdom of Judah, is it the book of Ezra, where there are fights between the people who are in the land and those
Yep.
who are trying to rebuild the temple, and the
Yep.
people in the land are trying to stop them. And we don't have the point of view of those people, but there seem to be some people who were excluded from the rebuilding of the temple and who were opposed to those who were doing it.
And Paul Hansen says,
this includes disciples of Isaiah, who
yeah,
were visionary
if you
visionary
read
people.
Dawn of the Apocalyptic, Paul Hansen's whole take is some of these guys are visionaries and they're on the outside. And you read that book and you're like, kind of sounds like our homeboy
Lehi.
Lehi.
Yeah, who's a visionary.
Right, so
man.
we should eventually get into the Book of Mormon on this point, but
Yeah.
yeah, so not 100% clear that the Samaritans are in fact a foreign population. That may be a slander meant to say, oh, you are not good Israelites, and your religion
outsiders.
is obviously polytheistic and false.
Okay, now, but before we go farther, Brad, you're gonna have to do some kind of like stick your hand up because I realize I can't see your face.
I got you.
right
Yeah.
here. You know
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying?
I do have a question to bring this
Okay,
back
hit
into
it.
the Book of Mormon.
Yes.
So,
Good job.
one of the things that I think is fascinating in the Book of Mormon is we have Jacob make a very big assertion that all of the prophets since the beginning of time have testified of the Messiah, right? I believe, Hayden, correct me if I'm wrong, that's one of the specific verses that Pastor Jeff had an issue with. Now, it sounds to me like what you guys are saying is that the testimonies of Christ as the Messiah that would have been in the Bible, those are some of the plain and precious things that the Deuteronomists would have most wanted to remove. Is that the correct understanding?
I have like 3 answers to this, and they're all long.
Go.
Okay.
I'm not going to get in your way.
Okay, they're also all awesome. Thing 1, okay?
As awesome as the opening hymn.
It's pretty tough to get the level of awesomeness, to be honest.
it's not.
Closing hymn might do it. So, first of all, there are people who are trying to figure out the answer to that question. This is, if you had to summarize in a nutshell the sort of themes of the academic career of Margaret Barker, it would be this: what was going on in the first temple? Because what happens is this guy Jesus shows up, okay, and he's not an unknown quantity. He's not a mysterious figure who descends from a cloud. He's the son of Joseph the Tectone, and Tectone does not mean fine finished carpenter. He's like a guy who hangs drywall.
He's a builder, yeah.
Okay, he's a builder. This is a son of the construction worker. There are his siblings. That's his mother, and yet they somehow are able to say Jesus is Lord, i.e. Jesus is Yahweh, like within a generation showing up, right? Again, he was not some mysterious Hellenistic god king figure. This was a dude, they all knew who he was. So her question is, well, how did this come about? What was in their mental furniture that allowed them to get there? And her research, her basic answer is, I'm going to characterize this really, really broadly. This is like 16 books I'm summarizing here, okay? But is it the religion of the first temple period, okay? The religion that the Deuteronomists changed was about God, Yahweh, who appeared in the form of the Davidic king, okay? And so the king David and the descendants of David were Yahweh, brought blessings with them, and that Jesus inherited that there are people who still believe that. They were the descendants of those who had fought against the rebuilding of the temple, those who had been left behind and not gone into the Babylonian captivity, and they were waiting for the restoration of the Davidic kingship. And in Jesus, they saw that, and that's how they saw this person who they had known as a mortal man, and that's why we get the genealogies we do, and right. So that's one answer. Another answer is that this is precisely the magic of the Book of Mormon, and why the Book of Mormon is so amazing is because in the Book of Mormon, not uniquely in world history, but really unusually, we get the history from the loser's point of view.
Which is so rare.
It's so rare. The winner always stamps out the perspective of the loser, right? Because it casts doubt on the legitimacy of their exercise of power.
Even to the very end, because the Lamanites destroy them, and they didn't have the ability to destroy the sword.
Well, and we
right?
even see the Book of Mormon so sophisticated, because the Book of Mormon presents the Lehite party point of view as in contradistinction to the Jews who were at Jerusalem. And again, Mike's exactly right. He hasn't got through his list of things that the Deuteronomists change, but one of them is you can't see God. Another one is it's not appropriate to include stars in worship. And what do we see in 1 Nephi 1? Lehi has a vision of God on his throne and 12 who are like stars.
And by the way, the stars is code speech for the council, the divine council.
Yeah.
So there's this big contention in the religion of the Sod, or this translated as the council or the assembly. And the idea is that God sits on a council of divine beings, and they're often called the Elohim, which can be translated 9 different ways. We can scan that cap, but here's my day picture in my mind's eye. You have the Father on the throne, you have the Son, I'm going to throw the Heavenly Mother, divine beings, concourses, circles surrounding this throne. And Deuteronomy says we're not doing that. What happens in 1 Nephi 1? That's exactly what Lehi sees. So once again, Lehi is point by point dismantling the theories or the ideas, the religious traditions that are taught in Deuteronomy. So call them Deuteronomists, don't call them Deuteronomists, call them the reformers. The Bible tells you there's a reform. They're telling you what the new story is, and 1 Nephi 1 is saying there's another way to see this. And is that making sense?
Yeah, and if Joseph Smith is doing a Bible ripoff, why would he go in contrary to what the Bible is saying.
Right.
Why wouldn't he just fall in line? But the fact that he understand that the Book of Mormon clearly shows that there was a controversy and that Lehi is contrary to that,
And it's picking a
is
side.
very bold.
Yeah.
Well, it's this idea that Joseph is smart enough to put his face in a hat and dictate a 500-page, extremely complex
Or not in a
book.
hat for those freaking out.
Or
right
not
now.
in your hat if you are very upset by that thought. That's fine. I'm agnostic on it, okay? But he's not smart enough to know that Jesus is in the New Testament half and not the Old Testament half, right?
Yeah.
So, despite the fact that he grows up in a Bible culture, so this is a little bit implausible. So one, Margaret Barker is an example of someone who's trying to figure out what First Temple Judaism is, and in what sense Jesus is rooted in First Temple Judaism. Two, the Book of Mormon's a witness. Three, let's talk about a specific concrete example, okay? And that is the Nehushtan. And big shout out to the Nehushtan,
Okay.
meaning the snake thingy or the brass thingy.
Okay, cool.
The brass serpent thingy.
The brass serpent thingy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna refer to scriptures here from memory. Should I do that? I should look them up.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
while you're doing that, I'm just
Do we
going to
have
say
time? We have time.
this.
Yeah, go ahead and look
It's
them
a
up. I
live
can
stream.
catch us up on some super chats.
Yeah,
okay.
and I'm just saying that this is reminding me very much of what Don Bradley said when he said Nephi the radical, that we needed to reread First Nephi 1 as absolutely throwing all of the social norms of the day on its head. First off, the youngest brother instead of the oldest brother, is the one that is teaching the lessons. And he really said, in light of everything we know now about Jewish culture of the 6th century BC, this needs to be reread as like Nephi the radical, literally just rewriting the modus operandi of the day, right? So, Brad, hit us up.
And can I ask a quick question before we get to these super chats?
I like how you said that.
I'm ready to go whenever you want. Yeah.
Okay, this one's pretty speedy.
Okay.
When you hear that verse from Jacob, and he says that all of these prophets testified of Christ from the beginning, do you think he's talking about they are testifying of the Messiah, or do you think he's specifically saying they knew Jesus Christ was going to be the one?
Well, that's a very big question.
Okay, dang it. I was looking for like a quick
Well,
yes,
Christ
no,
just
maybe?
means anointed one, right? Now, obviously, the Book of Mormon wasn't written in Greek, but am I wrong in saying that Christ means just anointed one?
it
So,
means anointed one.
you could essentially, cause it's kind of synonymous with Messiah, the anointed one and Messiah, right?
Okay, so it's most likely they're talking about the Messiah, which
And-
is a thing
well,
that the Deuteronomists were trying to
The
get rid of.
Book of Mormon prophets seem to know when he's imminent, right? And so they seem to be aware, at least when it's his time, they seem to receive revelation saying, now, right, Nephi, I'm coming to the world tonight, right? But it is certainly possible that some of that prophesying is referring to texts or even things we might not immediately recognize as being a prophecy, right? It could be liturgy of the Anointed One, which was understood to be like a projection or an enactment or even an invocation of the future coming of the Lord,
Okay.
right?
It's complicated. So, like, Sigmund Mowinkle wrote a book called He That Cometh. There's all kinds of books on what are called the Messiah traditions of the Jews before Jesus and then after. And so there's not one flavor of ice cream that I can answer that with.
Yeah.
There's over 31 flavors.
Yeah.
And it's complicated. And the more I read, the more I realize I literally know nothing. But just know that from the Book of Mormon's perspective, there was going to be a Messiah who would come, who would descend, defeat death and hell, ascend, and then things would get fixed. And that's their perspective. And that's the perspective of the authors of the Gospels, is that Jesus was all the stuff going on with the Messiah stuff in the Psalms. Because, like, the number one thing they're quoting are basically Psalm 2 and Psalm 110. That's what I'm writing my dissertation on. It's the most quoted text in the entire New Testament out of the Old Testament. So as a nerd who likes text, I'm like, I wonder why that's in there. And so that's kind of what I'm doing a deep dive on.
Okay, cool.
And it's all about the anointing of the Messiah. And so they're riffing on that all throughout the Gospels, and they're trying to explain that's who we view him as. But to say that all Jews believe X about that, I just think I could never say that because they don't.
Yeah, and so I guess part of what I'm wondering is like, just when people say things like, oh, it's anachronistic to even have them talking about Jesus, then the contention isn't that they're talking about Jesus so much as they're talking about the Messiah to come, which is all over.
Yes. Also, maybe, but also part of the contention is we don't really know what they talked about because the book that we have is edited.
Yeah.
Okay. And the third thing I'm going to come back to about the
Bigly.
Nehushtan.
I'm going to say edited bigly.
Edited bigly and meanly.
Yes.
And I'm going to come back and talk about the Nehushtan after you read this or these super chats. And show you that actually it is quite specifically Jesus who is edited out of the Old Testament.
And
at least as John and as Nephi understand it.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. And one thing to add to this, that first off, they didn't refer to Jesus Christ until they were told what his name was in First Nephi. I
think it's 10, is it?
10?
Yeah.
Right? So they learn his name,
revelation
Jesus,
that
right?
he's given.
So it seems that Lehi did not, at least the name Jesus was not known to Lehi prior to that. So the probability
Until they had left Jerusalem.
Yeah. Right? And so he said, because he has a vision, he says his name will be Jesus. And then one other thing to just keep in mind is that Mormon is compiling all of this, and who knows what sort of editorial stuff he is doing in the text, but he's compiling this after Christ already appeared and announced who he was. So who knows if all of the Jesus Christ references are contemporary with the authors
My only
themselves.
push against that is the small plates. He didn't touch that. That's
didn't touch
straight
the
up.
small
That's
plate.
OJ
That's
Nephi.
true.
So
Yeah.
from First and Second books of Nephi, Jacob, Enos, Jeremiah, Mormon doesn't touch that stuff.
Yeah, good point.
The other thing I would say is, although this is less obvious, is the name Jesus may actually be in the nature of a liturgical name.
Yes.
Okay? Because Jesus is just the name Joshua. And again, Exodus 24, Joshua not only ascends with Moses and the leaders of Israel into the sort of intermediate space on Mount Sinai, Joshua is the only one who goes with them into the Holy of Holies. So Joshua is a name that is in some sense priestly, and Joshua is the successor of Moses. And so it's not crazy to think that the name Yeshua, the name Jesus, is in some sense a liturgical name. It's kind of like the name Mary. There's an awful lot of Marys in the New Testament, and Mary is a name that has a lot of Old Testament resonance. Maybe in like, if we had CCTV footage, they would all actually have been named Mary, right? Maybe those names amount to something like a title.
Okay, cool. Brad, catch us up.
I got you. Okay. So we got Scottish Warrior asking, have you read the book Tephie on Amazon Shop? Tephi? Have you guys heard of this? I haven't heard of this.
Nope.
Yeah.
I have not.
Tephi.
Huh.
Nope. Never heard of it. Sorry, Scottish Warrior. We'll see if we can look it up.
Cool name, though.
Yeah. Sounds like a Utah mom that wanted to get edgy and mix like Tyson with Nephi. Who said, I bless my son Tephi.
Or had too many kids and they're like, Nephi, Tephi, Nephi. Yeah.
We find.
Yeah. Next up, Joshua Williams says, I'd get called a prick for a free shirt. Totally
It's a
worth
rite
it.
of passage. It's a rite of passage. That's funny.
And then Brandon Cole, using my milestone super chat to avoid being called a sinful prick. In all seriousness, thanks for the great content. Thank you, Brandon Cole. We appreciate that. Scottish Warrior clarified Tephi
No,
or Tephi, whatever that one is, has a story of Jeremiah. Uncle has different book. I'm not sure what he means with that, but that's cool.
I have not read it. I don't know if that is one of these sort of the restoration movement has lots of little books that purport to be restored books of this and that guy. I don't know if that's one of those maybe, or is that could even be fiction. I'm unaware of it.
Yeah, maybe. Next up, we got Polynikes. Question for Carson and Mike Carden, I bet. And it just auto-corrected. Would it be appropriate and fair to say that our handbook worshiping generation is the modern equivalent of the past's Deuteronomists?
Oh, no, because they're not omitting plain and precious truths. They're just like, see, the Deuteronomists got rid of the name of Jesus in the Old Testament, sounds like, if what Dave Butler and Mike Day say are true. They didn't just try and morph their version of him into a niceness culture and then say that their niceness culture is authoritatively endorsed by God, and then get rid of a Boy Scout program and not replace it with anything useful. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's slightly different.
By the way, Jesus' name is revealed in 2 Nephi 25, verse 19. There's this whole bit where he says, don't look for the wrong Messiah. Make sure you are convinced of the true Messiah in verse 18. And then we read, For according to the words of the prophets, the Messiah cometh in 600 years from the time that my father left Jerusalem, according to the words of the prophets, and also the word of the angel of God. So according to the words of the angel of God, his name shall be Jesus Christ, the Son of God.
Okay.
So everything before verse 19, I mean, Nephi's using other names. Probably the most common is the Holy One of Israel.
Yeah.
And there happens to be an Old Testament prophet who really digs that moniker, and his name is Isaiah.
Ever heard of him?
Isaiah is big into the Holy One of Israel, and so is Nephi. But here in verse 19 is where it picks up. And then right after that, to kind of segue into your convo, is verse 20, and it's all about the Nehushtan.
It's the Nehushtan,
Yeah.
2 Nephi 25.
So I'm just, you see what we did is
Yeah.
segue.
Look at
perfectly.
you,
Look at that.
Segan.
That was beautiful.
Segan away.
So let's talk about the Nehushtan. Okay, so
Well, before you dive in, Brad, are we caught up on Super Chats?
Not quite. Do you want
Oh,
me to
sorry.
catch you all the way
Yeah,
up?
yeah.
Go
Just
for
catch us all the way up.
Okay. Just so that we do this, dang. Sean Fletcher has gifted another 50 super chats. So everyone, please put a
No
WX
way. What a
50
legend.
Wow.
50
in the chat.
members. Double.
What does that mean?
That means he.
What does
I don't
that
know.
mean?
Is that like 50 shroot bucks or what is that?
I think
That
it's
means-
actual dollars.
50 of the people watching the stream just got membership access to like
Oh.
exclusive content and ability to like do some other chat sort of stuff. All from Sean Fletcher, who donated it
What a
to
guy.
them, so they can have that for free for a month, and they can renew their memberships if they're liking it.
And
yeah.
remember to renew your memberships, people, so you get early access to the videos, especially a lot of the morning shows.
Yeah.
Boom.
And then up here we've got Robert Hall, Sunday Sinners, sending super chats.
Oh, savage. You know, I don't know. There's a cynical part of me that wants to monetize the Sunday Sinner thing, maybe even make a T-shirt out of it about it. You know what I'm saying?
does
Like,
feel
I'll
like-
just
it does
admit,
feel
I'm
like
a
a
Hollywood
T-shirt.
producer. There's a
But you can
growing
only
side
buy
to
it
us,
on
you know?
Sunday. Like it's on the website, but you can't buy it.
But there's
except
too
for on
much of me
Sunday.
that believes, you know, you don't want to incentivize breaking the Sabbath. So look, it's funny, it's great, it's cute. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, keep going.
Next up, we got Sean Fletcher again saying, search the Discord for C32 through 1827, Deep Thoughts. Also, Gen Z Old Testament is great on Amazon.
I gotta agree. It's awesome. Have you read the Gen Z Old Testament? You've been asking what are super chats. Have you read the Book of Mormon in Gen Z?
Yeah, we checked that the other day when you guys were over. Was that with you too?
Yes.
That we were looking through the Gen Z.
It
book?
was
No,
with
have
me
you
at
seen
least.
this, Mike?
Or maybe it was just
I think
Dave
you
Butler.
read
Oh,
part
I
of
think it was just
Mike,
Dave.
hold
I think it was
on,
just
Mike.
Dave Butler.
Mike, hold on.
Oh, you got a copy?
He's got a copy, man.
What's your all-time favorite Book of Mormon verse?
Oh, I don't have a favorite verse, but the most footnoted verse is 1 Nephi 19:10. But that might be a boring Gen Z verse.
Okay, no. So here we go. First Nephi 19:10. Actually, you get to read it
It's the
yourself,
most
bro.
footnoted verse.
Wait, why is it the most footnoted verse?
Because it's loaded.
Because it's loaded. Like it's got a grill
So
and
it's
a
kind
big
of like
bank account.
it's kind
or
of
what?
pointing out what man, I'm not gonna, this is like microscopic. It's
Yeah.
kind of pointing
You're
out
so old.
what Dave's talking about.
I'm gonna borrow
First
mine.
Yeah,
Nephi
I freaking can't. This is
19:10.
ridiculously
Okay,
Look at
so-
these just old
Is this for
men just
people that are
sharing
like-
glasses.
Oh my gosh.
Wait till we share
So
dentures.
here's what it says. First Nephi 19:10.
I can read it. Oh my gosh, they're butchering this. Okay, this important person is the. This is okay.
This is hilarious. You
Sacrilegious.
want me to read it?
No, I'll read it. I'm just having a heart. This is an issue. This important person is the God of our ancestors who saved them from the slavery in Egypt and kept them safe in the wilderness. He will come to earth as a human and be killed by evil people. This was predicted by the prophets Zenock, Nahum, and Zenos, who said there would be 3 days of darkness as a sign of his death, especially for the house of Israel living on the islands of the sea. That's actually not bad.
Yeah.
And then 19:11 says, "Listen up. The prophet said that on that day the Lord God will visit all the house of Israel. Some hear his voice because of their righteousness and be stoked about it, while others feel the power of his thunder, lightning, tempest, fire, smoke, vapor of darkness opening the earth, and mountains being carried
That's
up."
actually not bad. And that's not a bad bit.
Is this
See?
your new translation?
Yeah, dude.
That you're gonna read?
You
You're
know,
gonna
you
study
use this
from
in your
this?
seminary
If you-
class, bro?
I don't know, but if you look in 1 Nephi
like,
21,
yo, they came
12,
over and drank his milkshake.
Yeah, like literally. Look at 1 Nephi 21:12. Peeps will come from far away, even from the northwest, and send them. So peeps, I like that.
Yeah.
That's a word that I can verify you use in your Old Testament.
21:17.
before.
Your kid's gonna come after the ones who destroyed you and kick their butts. I like that. Okay, this isn't bad.
Yeah, dude. It's not bad. Rock on.
I'm not going to diss this.
A ringing endorsement.
Thanks for yeeting it over. I just learned that word.
Well
for the
done.
first time. Thanks, man. Yeah.
I don't know. I handed it to you. I didn't quite yeet it.
Well, I don't know what handed is, but I got yeet down. From this fellow.
Oh, we have a
cool.
request for you to read Alma 51:22 in this particular.
Oh my God.
Copy.
Alma
Request
51:22.
My
All right, Alma 51:22.
Man, you guys got
Coming
your
up, read in the
war
legendary
chapters here.
voice.
Yeah, what
of-
is this going to be? War
Alma
chapters
51.
wise?
It's not the
22.
title of Liberty. Is this like?
I don't know.
51:22. Yo, Moroni was busy trying to sort out all the beef and drama among his own people. I have a story about the word beef I want to tell. On making sure they had their act together for war against the Lamanites, but then out of nowhere, the Lamanites came rolling up onto Nephi's turf by the seaside. Can I tell you my story about beef really quick?
Yeah,
So
sure.
my son Parker came home from a road trip with some of his friends, and he said to his mom, she's like, well, how did it go? And she asked him that question. He said, Mom, I just had to sort out some beef with my homeboy Taylor. You know, his name wasn't Taylor. I'm just giving you a name. But Parker says, I had to sort out some beef. And her mom's like, my wife's like signing. She's like, oh, cool. And she didn't know what he meant. So
beef
she
was.
ran into the friend at the store the next day. And he's like, hey, how's it going, Sister Day? And she's like, hey, yeah, I heard about your road trip. And he's like, yeah, what did you hear? And Sonny's like, I heard you guys were driving down the road and there was some beef you guys had to sort out. And I don't know, was that a lot? Like, were there a lot of beef in the road or did you have to drive around it? And he looked at her like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I
funny.
don't understand. And she's like, well, didn't you guys have to sort out some beef? And he had no idea what she was talking about.
Oh, my
And then he
goodness.
had to explain her what that meant. Anyway, I thought that was hilarious.
That is hilarious.
Nice.
You got to know if you're gonna have Gen Z kids, you got to learn the lingo.
Yeah, and
Gen C.
Gen Z.
you got to know
we
what
already went
beef
from
is.
Z back to Gen Alpha, and we skipped B. Now we're to Gen
Now we're-
C.
Well, they
so
were
rock
all
on.
betas, Carden. Why would we ever acknowledge them?
Bam.
Yeah.
But
Rough.
Okay, so
Rough.
do we still have more
Whole generation
things, or are we
condemned.
going to Nahush time?
We have a couple that showed up.
Yeah, hit him. Hit him.
So Sean Fletcher says, if you can get a super chat, you can gift one membership. Let's become Steak Radio.
Oh, that's
Steak
funny.
Radio.
That's funny.
Hey.
Now we got Lenzo saying, I can't believe how much knowledge this show offers to those who listen. Sorry about the antis. They just don't know PS for me. I don't know what that is.
I don't know.
The ox is in the mire. I can't super chat another day of the week.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Okay. And Scottish Warrior clarified that I guess the Book of Tephi maybe, is
Tia Tephi is the actual TEA. I looked it up. Tia Tephi.
okay.
Oh.
It's the story of the daughter of King Zedekiah who left with Jeremiah, fled to Ireland, apparently, which Joseph Smith's family came from. That sounds similar to maybe something out of the Book of Jeranek. Is that maybe?
It talks about the Book of Jeranek, right? Him going up north, Jeremiah going up north, and kind of starting a community.
So I don't recall that being in the Chronicles of Aranek or the stories of Jeranek.
Yeah.
No,
It sounds like it's one of the other restoration.
Okay, so this
kind
is
of
just a
books.
different.
It's
in my-
actually-
I have not read that one in any case.
Yeah,
If it's
me
in-
neither.
If it's an
I don't think
Aranek,
any of us have read it.
I have read the Aranek book. I don't recall that. That is very kind of Celtic,
Okay.
British Isles, Jaredite.
Okay, but a similar idea.
Yeah.
Jeremiah going up towards those isles,
Yep.
and then last, we have. I guess. Okay, we have two more really fast, and then we can get to the scriptures again. Carolyn Wright Gaines music. Carden.
Carolyn Wright Gaines music.
she's the
She's
best.
here. Yeah,
She's the
rock
bomb.
on.
Dude, I love Carolyn. She's just
She's
such a
amazing.
bro to everyone,
So.
Such a bro.
but like in a good way, a feminine, beautiful woman way.
Yeah, rock on.
So Carolyn Wright Gaines music. She says, "Keep up the great work, Ward family. I love your show. Happy Sunday, sinner. Happy Sunday, sinner. Pulling the ox out of the mire, I suppose. Thank you for
rock
being
on.
here for us. Awesome.
I don't know
Thank you,
how we
Carolyn.
justify this ox being in the mire, but thank you, Carolyn.
And-
Take it.
Okay. Another person in the chat actually clarified that this is, I guess they're saying that the Tephi or Book of Tephi thing is an actual Irish legend.
Oh, is it?
So not out of like.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
restorationist
Not
thing.
part of restoration.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Irish had an unbroken tradition of Christianity. There were Irish monks all through the so-called Dark Ages, and so they certainly knew who Jeremiah was, and that's very cool. I'm unfamiliar with that.
Yeah, we'll have to
and,
look it up. That'll be
I'm
fascinating.
interested. Yeah, for sure.
And then Polynikes has requested another reading from the Gen Z Book of Mormon. Oh my God.
All right,
He says
Mike Day.
he would like Alma 39:3, please.
Wow.
Alma 39:3. What's the significance of that?
Giddy up.
Dave,
And-
while he's looking it up, what's
And
Alma
that's not
39?
all, man. You did something that really
Shiblon,
me
isn't
off.
it?
You ticked me
Oh,
off. It says,
Coriandon.
you left your ministry and went to the land of Siren near the Lamanites' borders to be with some hoe named Isabel. Yeah, Yisabel, which, by the way, that's not a nice name to call a girl back then.
Isabel?
Jezebel, yeah.
Yisabel, not happy.
Oh, really? Why?
Yeah, it's kind of a
Derogatory
it's like calling
term.
a woman a Corinthian woman in Paul's day. Like, yeah, it's
Wow. Jeez. Okay.
Okay.
It's
all right.
the
Salt and
equivalent of
pepper on it.
Jezebel,
Are
basically.
you guys just trying to get clips of Mike saying
They're
naughty
recording
words?
it. And they're going to
sounds
send
like
it to my.
it.
There's a rap being mixed right now,
Right now.
with Mike going, "Yo, hoes."
I got hose.
Okay,
Did I tell
and
you
then-
wait, I told you what happened with hose today at church on Sunday,
You
right?
did.
Yeah,
No,
you
it
did.
was hilarious. So I walk into church, and we have members of the church from all over. You know what I'm saying? And there was this really cool guy that he did his military service in like South Korea before coming to the U.S. and became like a ballistics expert and the whole 9 yards. But he comes in, he was talking about a service project and our need of many hose and why hose would be good for this and so on and so forth. And he asked, "Does anybody have any hose?" Right as I walked in, and I was just like, "Dude, I got hose in multiple area codes." And then like he was just like, "What?" And everybody just because everybody was thinking it.
Did
But
anyone
what-
in
I-
your ward
But
know
what does
that
hose
song?
have to do with ballistics? That's my question. I didn't under.
No,
like,
that was his professional background. He
I
was
know,
a ballistic-
but what did he need hose for?
Well, no, there was a service project.
a
He was
service
announcing there was a, and no, he's
service
an Asian
project,
guy.
like
It's
the
English is
gardening
his
tool.
second
Yeah.
language, and he's talking and explaining what we need for the service project. He
Okay.
said we need, like
Rakes and hose.
yeah, exactly. And so just like the Jeopardy question of what is a rake, which the Mormon guy famously botched and said was a hoe. Yeah, it's really so. There's all kinds of really good humor there that was fun, and can't believe it happened at church.
That was
but
good.
anyway, there's a
Okay.
reason I'll never be bishop.
Okay, I've saved the next couple of super chats. We'll get back to those. I want to get back into the scriptures with.
Okay,
what
hit
you're
it.
ready to say.
Okay. Are we gonna talk
Nehushtan?
Back to the
Nehushtan.
snake.
Okay,
Nehushtan.
so maybe let me give an overview of this and walk through the passages, kind of referring to them, and then if we want, we can go dig into them and read them. Okay.
Yep.
2 Kings 18:4 and 5 is about King Hezekiah. The Deuteronomists like him. Why? Because he carries out their agenda. What does he do in 2 Kings 18:4? Well, he smashes up the bronze serpent, which he called the Nehushtan, which, by the way, may mean that people who liked the bronze serpent or the brass serpent didn't call it Nehushtan, that it was a derogatory name made up by King Hezekiah and his people. Okay, and he smashed the serpent which was made by Moses, and 2 Kings 18:4 says, maybe implying the reason for smashing it was because the children of Israel were burning incense to it. Okay, now. The Book of Kings, how does it feel about this? He's amazing. He's the best. 2 Kings 18:5, the next verse says there was no king before him who was greater, and there's no king afterward who was greater. He was the best king there ever was because he's smashing up the stuff, okay? So he breaks up the Nehushtan. Now, what's the Nehushtan? Numbers 21, I want to say verses something like 6 to 9-ish, okay? They're out in the desert, and the Israelites are bitten by serpents. And they need a way to heal everybody of the bite of the serpent, okay? And God tells Moses to put, and by the way, the serpents, we could go through and look at these verses, are referred to as burning serpents, okay?
Yeah. Literally,
serpent-
the scripture here in verse 6, you pegged it, by the way. It's Numbers 21, 6 through 9.
Okay.
And the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and much of Israel died. Therefore the people came to Moses and said, "We have sinned, for we have spoken against the Lord, and against thee pray unto the Lord, that he take away the serpents from us." And Moses prayed for the people, and the Lord said unto Moses, "Make thee a fiery serpent, and send it upon a pole, and it shall come to pass that every one that is bitten when he looketh up shall live." And Moses made a serpent of brass, yada, yada, double, triple,
And
yada.
there it is. Ha Nachashim, Ha Seraphim.
Yeah, the burning serpents, okay? So these fiery serpents, a serpent is Nachash,
Yeah.
and fiery is Saraph.
Yep.
Now, there's something really interesting here because the translation in verse 8 is a lie, okay? Translation in verse 8 says, "Make thee a fiery serpent and set it upon a pole." That's actually not what it says. It says, "Make thee a seraph."
And I'm reading it in the Hebrew, and it's
put it upon a pole.
Lehi, seraph.
The word
yeah,
serpent is not there.
There
Make
it
a
is.
seraph and put it on a pole.
Yeah.
Oh.
So seraphim appear to be, okay, and this is not Dave making stuff up. This is a pretty standard commentator reading. Seraphim, when they show up, appear to be not pretty angels, but fiery, flaming snakes. Okay?
Whoa.
Yes. It's going to get woer. Okay?
Okay, yeah, rock.
So Isaiah 6. Let's go Isaiah 6. We're going to
Okay.
read verses 1 to 8. Well, we're going to do this, Cardin. You and I, we're going to read the actual scriptures together. I love the scriptures. This is one half of Isaiah's calling vision, okay?
Where are you going to start? Verse 2?
We'll just start with verse, sure, we'll start with verse 1.
In the year that Uzziah died, I saw also the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. That verse.
Yep, so we are
Okay,
in the temple. Above it stood the seraphim, so these are the burning ones. So now we know what these are. These are fiery snakes. Each one had 6 wings. They're winged snakes. With twain he covered his face, with twain he covered his feet, and with twain he did fly. Fiery, 6-winged snakes. One cried unto another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the posts of the door moved at the voice of him that cried, and the house was filled with smoke. Now, why is the temple filled with smoke?
Oh, were they burning incense?
Because they're burning incense. So remember, 2 Kings 18:4, the reason why King Hezekiah, the best king Judah ever had, smashes up the seraphim, the Nehushtan, which is a seraphim, is because the Israelites are burning incense to it. That's actually literally what we see Isaiah doing here in Isaiah 6.
And he's the Book of Mormon's homeboy. Like, we love Isaiah.
He is also the homeboy of the Dead Sea Scrolls and the New Testament people. So incense is being burned here to the Nehushtan, to the seraphim, which is a
And it's
6-winged
not a problem for
fiery-
Isaiah. He doesn't have an issue with it.
He's not, and in fact, it gets even better. So remember, what do we know about the seraphim so far? The Nehushtan, when it's on a pole, and when you raise it and you look at it, you're healed of snake bite.
Okay.
All right. Then said I, Woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For mine eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. Then flew one of the seraphims unto me. By the way, how many seraphims are there here?
At least 2.
There's at least 2, right? Having a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with the tongs from off the altar. And he laid it upon my mouth and said, Lo, this hath touched thy lips. Thine iniquity is taken away, and thy sin is purged. So the seraphim heal you. Well, you turn and look at them, and they heal you. And what do they also do to your sin?
They purge it.
They purify you of your sin. Okay, the seraphim
does that?
purify you of your sin with fire. In verse 8, this is Isaiah's call. And also I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send? Who will go for us? Then said I, Here am I, send me. So look, in the Old Testament, as we have it, even having edited it, okay, even having it been edited by the Deuteronomists, we have this fiery snake on a pole that heals you of snake bite and also purifies your sin. And this Deuteronomist hero, Hezekiah, smashes it to bits. Now, that is already really interesting, okay? It gets more interesting, and I'll tell you why. By the way, actually, let me ask you a guess. Any guess how many times the Nehushtan is referred to explicitly in Scripture?
Oh, geez.
Well, you got Nicodemus
brazen
and
serpent.
Jesus. You got a bunch of times in the Book of Mormon. You got this.
Let's go with 12.
the King's narrative.
So not that many. 7.
Dang
okay,
it.
7.
That was my second
Number 2.
But here's the distribution, and Mike's already giving it away. There are 2 in the Old Testament. We've seen them both. There's 1 in the New Testament. It's in John chapter 3, and there are 4 in the Book of Mormon. Okay? 4 references in the Book of Mormon. Let's look at, and the references in the Book of Mormon are all consistent. They're all very similar. Let's go to Helaman 8 and look at that one.
Okay.
Okay, so we can see what this is. Nephi. Which Nephi is it? This is Nephi the detective, the crime-fighting genre fiction Nephi. Brad and I, as genre fiction writers, really favor this Nephi.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, verses 14 and 15. We're talking about Moses here. Okay, we're talking about Moses, and this is Nephi talking to the corrupt leaders of his day. Yea, did he, that's Moses, did Moses not bear record that the
Wait,
son
this
of...
is first
yeah, you
Nephi?
said 4. I think you're
say-
going to Helaman 8.
I said Helaman 8.
Yeah.
I said Helaman 8.
I heard you say Helaman 4, but bro, we're good. Helaman 8.
Well, I'm sorry.
And what verse are you going to be in, bro?
14 and 15.
Yep, giddy up.
Okay. Did not Moses bear record that the Son of God should come? Now, by the way, this is the point in dispute, right? Was Jesus in the Old Testament? Nephi says yes. And he gives an example. And as he lifted up the brazen serpent in the wilderness, oh, hello, even so shall he be lifted up who should come. So the brazen serpent who should be lifted up in the wilderness was a symbol, was teaching about Christ, right? And by the way, that's what John 3 says. It's also what 1 Nephi 17, 2 Nephi 25, and Alma 33 all say the same thing. And none of those passages use the word Nehushtan, which probably is a derogatory name meaning like snake thingy.
Okay. All right.
Verse 15, and as many as should look upon that serpent should live, even so as many as should look upon the Son of God with faith, having a contrite spirit, might live, even unto that life which is eternal. So look, this fiery serpent is lifted up upon a pole. You look at it to receive life. It heals you of snake bite. It is explicitly for the Nephites and also for John. Look at John 3, 14 and 15, I think. It's about the same verse, same
It's
place.
right before the 3:16 bit. Yeah, just as Moses lifted up, so shall the Son of Man be lifted up. So, I mean, Jesus doesn't say I am that serpent. He says just as it was lifted up. So I've heard people argue, well, it doesn't mean that, and I'm like, potato. I'm seeing the Book of Mormon saying this is what we're talking about. Yeah. Moses is equating this with Jesus. Keep going.
For John and the Nephite prophets, the Nehushtan is explicitly Jesus. And it's not only reduced to a bare 2 mentions in the Old Testament, it's literally smashed to bits by one of the 2 kings who's the greatest heroes of the Deuteronomists who rewrite the Old Testament.
So there's a conflict in the Old Testament about what is right. And the Book of Mormon is a lens that tells you a few things. You open up 1 Nephi and you learn, because there's this whole bit in Deuteronomy that says, kill the visionaries. There's no vision. And then the secret things belong to the Lord. That's Deuteronomy 29. And the very first verse, Nephi says, I'm initiated into the mysteries. I know the secret things. Then he tells you about a guy, his dad, who has a vision, who's brought into the council, numberless concourses. So there's the council. Yeah. And he sees God, which Deuteronomy says you can't. And at the end, he talks about how they want to kill him, and just a couple chapters later, then he's building an altar outside of Jerusalem, and his sons have a freak out, which Deuteronomy 12 says there are no other altars. So most of the arguments that the reformers in Deuteronomy are saying are legit are unpacked in the first chapter of 1 Nephi.
So here's my question. What were the Deuteronomists taking out all these plain and precious truths in defense of? Like, for example, we know that the first 3 or 4 centuries of early Christianity, there was belief in an anthropomorphic God, that, Jesus Christ actually had a body. But that wasn't such a popular, that God actually had a body. That wasn't super popular amongst, the Greek philosophers and the Roman philosophers of the day and so on and so forth. And, as things got Hellenized, as things got Greekified, as things became a little bit more de la mode, and they absorbed some of those ideas into the early church, we started stripping away a lot of these physical characteristics from the nature of God until finally we ended up with the creeds and so on and so forth. And you can tell that, okay, in defense of the common Greek and polytheistic and mainstream philosophical views of the day, the Christian Bible was I don't want to say altered as much as, Christianity changed in order to conform to mainstream society back then, right? You guys are saying that the Old Testament changed in order to conform to what the Deuteronomists wanted people to think, right? Well, they weren't, defending the Greek Empire, which didn't exist yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, what was their beef?
Okay, so I don't know, but I think a really good argument would say cultic centralization. If you're in charge and you want the money to flow, it's really awesome if you have a revelation that says there's only one place where Yahweh shall choose to put his name. Oh, and it happens to be in the city that you control.
And this is where
the
you
priest
give your
that you
tithes.
control. Yeah, and that's where you come for your festival celebrations. So if you read like the narrative in Exodus, the Passover is
so they were defending the treasury, is what you're saying.
I'm saying that is an argument. I'm saying I don't know. but I'm saying it's a powerful argument. So like the Passover was a local thing that you do with your family in Exodus, but you read Deuteronomy and it's like, giddy up, no, we're doing a pilgrimage. Do you see? So there's some differences there just in that, but then just the idea of this is the place where Yahweh chooses to put his name is absolutely the opposite of what we've talked about, the patriarch narrative.
And this is before or after Josiah made his big giant
Josiah's
Passover?
640, remember, and so and so here's the thing. There's this story that says the book of the law was found by this guy who comes to Josiah and says, "Oh my goodness, we found this book of the law," and Josiah reads it and he rends his garment and he's like, "Oh, we've been doing everything wrong." And then they start making all these reforms. Well, all those reforms that they're making in 2 Kings are the exact things that Deuteronomy says you must do. So scholars read this and they say the book of the law that was discovered was the book of Deuteronomy.
Oh, so
does that make sense?
You're
So it's
saying
a
that
big
somebody
discovered.
didn't find something; they fabricated something.
I'm saying I don't know, and I'm not calling it a fabrication.
That's a common argument.
I want to
or
be
they
really
edited
careful.
an existing text. maybe.
Because if think about it from this perspective, if you're trying to change the mind of a people and get them to allow you to centralize power, who is the main figure that they revere more than anything? The Jews. It's Moses, right? And so you're not going to be able to make such massive changes to the zeitgeist of the religion of that time.
If it's in the name of Bob.
If it's in the name of, or even Josiah, or even Hezekiah.
Or Lehi.
It has to be made in the name of Moses. And that's what the secret book is that they found, that, they spread around the land. Hey, we found this book, and guess what? We've been doing things wrong, and now we have to change it all to do it this way.
I want to be really careful, and I want to make sure that my thoughts are represented. And so I'm going to begin and end this statement by saying, guys, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I want to say, there's all kinds of possibilities. So the first one I think that I'm hearing you say is, oh my gosh, this is a fake, and this was to make political changes. And that's a really strong position from a lot of scholars, a lot of Jewish scholars, in fact. But I like this middle position because the Book of Mormon authors actually like parts of Deuteronomy. And by the way, and this is we do this another time, but the J, E, D, and P from the Documentary Hypothesis, I believe, and sorry, do this really quick, Nephi's picking up the sticks from J, E, D, and P, all the good ones, and he's letting go of the bad ones.
Yeah.
So the stuff in Deuteronomy that's good, I think Nephi's running with that stuff. So what if, here's my middle position of, I don't know, but think about this. What if there really was a text they found? And what a cool opportunity to add some stuff in there to centralize stuff and tidy things up, because we got to put out all these fires. We have the Kemerim over here that are visionaries. We got to kill those guys. We haven't even talked about the groves, the Asherah that they got to cut down, because that's a big change in Deuteronomy. We got to cut down all the Asherim. Let's fix all this stuff. We'll stick it in this text. So what if there really was a text and they added stuff to it? Now, I don't know, I wasn't there, and I know some people say, Mike, you're crazy. Deuteronomy is straight up was Moses' stuff, and my pushback on that is, okay, read Deuteronomy and read Exodus. Same dude didn't write both. It's not.
Were they drawing from a common source, like the Book of Gad, the seer, Samuel, the seer? Like, there's a couple that.
Or
I've seen
Moses
referenced.
as a known liturgical figure or a legendary figure. I think some scholars take the position that Moses is invented by the Deuteronomists. I think that's. I think it makes way more sense that Moses must have existed and already had cultural authority, or there wouldn't have been a reason to use him to advance an agenda.
Yeah.
I do think Mike is probably right. Actually, I'm not sure whether Mike is even saying this. I think the idea that Mike has stated that maybe it's centralization, I think that's a good idea. And I think that actually...
Well, this is the premise of the Book of Eli. Do you guys remember Gary Oldman with Denzel Washington?
Yes.
I've never actually seen this
Where
movie.
he's blind, he's memorized
Oh,
the Bible.
no, he's blind.
Spoiler.
Well, yeah, spoiler alert. But no, literally he says they're searching for the Bible.
Right.
When she goes like this and she says what was on the cover of the book, Gary Oldman sends it. I was like, because the book runs everything. The book is the weapon. It's like a totally epic scene.
Yeah.
I hope there's no swearing in it.
We're going after him. It's not a book. It's a weapon. A weapon aimed right at the hearts and minds of the weak and the desperate. It will give us control of them.
Ah, so you're saying that's what the Deuteronomists did, huh?
That is a theory.
A lot of people argue that.
So they pulled a Gary Oldman and said, it's not just a book. It's a weapon.
I think the Book of Mormon gives us a certain amount of corroboration that, at least from Nephi's point of view or Mormon's point of view, that was what was going on, right? Because the Book of Mormon is concerned with, the Nephite prophets are concerned with a distinctive list of sins, including seeking of power and the accumulation of wealth other than to help the poor. Well, if that's literally what Lehi had been seeing in Jerusalem, as power is being centralized for the benefit only of the wealthy, and wealth is being centralized for the benefit only of the wealthy, like that might very well give rise to kind of that notion as part of the sort of seed of Lehite teaching.
Yeah.
I think there's another thing, and Mike has alluded to this too. It seems to me that the Deuteronomists are maybe above everything else those who hate the idea that God has a family. So it's not an accident that Hezekiah attacks and destroys the Son of God. This is a long conversation, and I think we're not going to have the time to get to it. But
give us the Reader's Digest version.
Here's the Reader's Digest version. He also attacks and humiliates and desecrates God's wife.
Yeah.
That's the other thing Hezekiah does.
And it's really messed up. Like, every time I talk about this, like, I can feel it. Like, this isn't just something I'm, like, reading in words. Like, I feel this.
Whoa,
and I've had
wait,
conversations
okay, hold
with you
on.
before.
Yeah.
I have
where it's,
maintained
like, palpable.
a very strict rule of patriarchy and horses in this studio. And
can
if
have-
this is
you
going
can
to
have
mess
the
with the
horses, Gordon.
patriarchy, then
You can have
I don't
the
want to hear it.
horses.
Well, no. So here's the thing that it's interesting to think about is, if you get rid of the Son of God, a son doesn't just come from a father, right? A man can't have a son. So when you're getting rid of the Son of God, you're getting rid of the whole family of God. And
So what's the evidence that Heavenly Mother was erased then?
Well, this is a big conversation.
Giddy up.
And it's very
So-
nuanced. It's
So let's
nuanced.
mother freaking giddy up.
Well,
You're not just going to say giddy up and say the Deuteronomists took out Heavenly Mother and then we just sit here and let the horses go graze in the field.
Okay, so-
Freaking giddy up.
Okay. So let me give you the fast version.
quick version.
Okay, the quick
We'll
version.
do a longer version. That will be one of your episodes.
Second Kings 18 again. Okay, what does Hezekiah do? He smashes up the Nehushtan.
Okay.
What else does he do? He cuts down the groves,
The groves.
Which is a jacked up.
which is a translation that hides what it's actually talking
Yeah.
about. Groves here is Asherah, which is a name. Okay, and it's the
Okay.
name of a goddess. Okay.
Okay.
And this is where some people get very uncomfortable. But there is a lot of archaeological evidence that she was very popular in Judah. The fact that she's attacked in the kingdom of Judah already suggests she's popular. Why does Hezekiah have to cut anything down unless there are a bunch of people who think that she's hunky-dory and they worship her, right? But also the
I
Judean
think Dan
pillar
McClellan
figurines.
did some video on Asherah, didn't he?
I don't really pay attention to that guy.
Okay.
So the Judean pillar figurines are thousands of clay sculptures that have been found in the period in Jerusalem in the period between Isaiah and Lehi. That's them. So they are the sort of common observation is this appears to be both a nourishing mother and a tree. Okay. Asherah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes, she's different from the statues of the nations around Judah, which have a voluptuous lower half because you have a divine woman who is also a concubine. Asherah is the divine woman who is a mother and who is a tree.
Has a trunk, so she doesn't have legs. She has a trunk that goes down straight.
Yeah. So, does the Book of Mormon know Asherah? Well, Asherah was a tree. She was the tree of life. Okay. I'm going to hit this like really high level and fast. Okay.
Cool.
First Nephi 8 is Lehi's vision of the approach to the tree of life. And he says, I think it's in 8 verse 10 maybe, one of the things he says is that the tree of life was good for making one happy. Okay? Desirable to make one happy, I think is the phrase. Well, happy could be various things, but one of the things it can be is Asher. Esher is happiness. And so we may see here a pun, a play on words on the name of Asherah. Here's the tree of life. And oh, look, the name is Asherah, is hinted at with it is desirable to make you happy. Asherah.
Okay, yeah.
Now, Nephi asks for a vision of the to understand what his father saw, and is immediately directed at the tree. Right. So his guide says, "Do
you know the meaning of the
tree?
Do
you know what about the tree?" And Nephi says, "I want to know more." And he sees a tree which is white and beautiful, and says, "I want to know what that means." And the angel says, "Blessed art thou, Nephi." Okay, we're moving in like very high gear here. Blessed art thou is probably is the beatitude formula in Hebrew, and it is Ashreka. Ashreka is, "Oh, your happiness, Nephi." This again means
the Asherah term right there.
It's the name Asherah again. So when Lehi sees the tree of life, there's this pun on Asherah. Then Nephi sees the same tree, and there's a different pun on Asherah. And then he wants to know what the tree that is white and beautiful is. And so the Spirit shows him a woman that is white and beautiful, and then shortly thereafter shows him the woman who is white and beautiful with a baby in her arms. So there's a pun on the name Asherah in both these instances, or at least potentially. We can't see through the English perfectly, but likely a pun in both. The fact that it's possible in both suggests it's more likely. It is the tree. It's not just mortal Mary, because it's the tree of life.
Yeah.
Okay. And it is a tree that is a nurturing mother. That is Asherah. Okay. So now.
So the tree of life vision would be a vision of Heavenly Mother, and not just of a tree.
Well, it's the temple vision. So, and we won't have the time to go into all of this because it's a long thing, but it plays out in a 3-part space, which the Temple of Solomon had 3 rooms in it, and the final room, the contention is where the tree dwelt. And so Lehi leaves a place where they just barely got rid of the tree out of the 3rd room of the temple. Immediately when he goes out, he has a vision where that tree is in the 3rd room of the temple. And Nephi, and here's the thing that's really interesting, is it says in verse 9 of chapter 11, it says, and the Spirit said I said unto the Spirit, I behold, thou hast shown unto me the tree, which is precious above all. So when you're asking, what are the plain and precious things that were removed?
God has a family.
This right here, that God has a family. The plain, this is my personal theory, is the plain things are things having to do with Christ. That Christ will come, atone for our sins, whatever. This is my own personal theory. And that the precious thing maybe have things to do with the tree. And both of those things, the Nehushtan, representation of Christ, the plain thing, and then the tree.
So feminists should be totally Mormon.
And by the way, not to answer the feminist thing, but when John sees the Holy of Holies descend, he sees this cube descend from heaven, and there's only one cube in the entire Tanakh, and that's the Holy of Holies. And smack dab in the middle of this cube, this golden thing that he sees descend is a throne, because there was a throne in there. Then he sees the tree, and there's water coming from it. And if you drink the water and take the fruit, you're healed. It's the same kind of stuff going on in 1 Nephi 8. So John puts the tree back in there. And this idea, Ashrei, blessed are those that partake of it. The Greek is makarioi. The makario are those who are blessed. In the Beatitudes, where Jesus says, blessed are those that do this and that. The makarioi are those that are not just blessed like, oh, that's really cool, you got a new car and your daughter got a pony. Yeah. And Cricket, your dog, got a really new back rub and a manicure. The makarioi are those that are in the state of the gods. So when you're eating this fruit, you are in the state of the gods. Well, who's in this room? It's the Father calling out. The word is called the debir. It's translated as oracle, but it means to speak. Or when Lehi is standing at the tree, he calls out with a loud voice. So throughout the Book of Mormon, there's this constant liturgical drumbeat of God is calling you to come unto him, because he is in the debir calling you out. And when you're there, you're at the tree and you are makarioi. You are in the state of the gods because you're in his presence, literally.
Wow. All right, guys, we got 12 more minutes here.
I got
12
some
more
super
minutes.
chats to catch us up with
Okay.
that I'm going to try to tie into the conversation here.
Rock on.
One thing I do want to say before I get to that, I love how much this deepens the Book of Mormon as a testament of Jesus Christ.
Oh boy, yeah.
It's incredible this is something that I don't understand why Christians outside of the restoration of the restored gospel aren't like clamoring for the Book of
Why
Mormon.
aren't we clamoring? Like, why is this not in the freaking manuals? Why did I have a super cringe, like, elders quorum lesson today where we announced hose for like, a service project and then talked about like whether welfare is necessary? They mother freaking took out Asherah and playful references to Asherah as Heavenly Mother in the Old Testament. Nephi's got the receipts. Joseph Smith translated this all before Margaret Barker and Mike Day and, Dave Butler could figure all this stuff out. It holds water, scholarly water. And I got to listen to the 15th iteration of the stupid milk stripping story with Thomas B. Marsh. You know what I'm saying? I got to listen to that one again.
Polynikes is resetting the milk stripping sign. And
yeah, exactly.
I think you're not alone. I
Cardin's
think my
fired up.
experience there are people. I think there's a hunger. I think people really want to take the Book of Mormon seriously, and I think as a culture we don't do that very well.
Yeah, word.
Is the truth.
We need more guys with jackets like yours and hairdos like yours.
Now, to tie together some super chats into what we've been talking about, Joshua Williams said, okay, I understand what the Nehushtan and menorah represent and how they are presented in the temple. How they are presented in the temple today. Why do you think temples today don't have a physical menorah or Nehushtan? Are they in the Holy of Holies?
So
Thoughts there?
I was teaching in class one time, and I had a student who's she was applying to law school. She's a senior at the U, and she said, Brother Day, I've been in the temple a lot. I've never seen a tree in the Holy of Holies. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I said, okay, that's a really good question. Let's talk about this. Tell me about your first experience when you went to the temple. And she's like, well, I went to the temple. And I said, okay, you crossed the veil and you walked into a room. Who's the first person you hugged? And she started to cry. And she's like, my mom.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I said, what did you see? And she's like, oh my gosh.
Wow. All
And
right.
why do we call it a family tree? Like it's not about a tree. It's about a tree. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like you have to
symbolic.
pause and take a breath and go, what are we talking about?
And
Then it's about a connection to your
And she's
ancestral.
physical and
Yeah.
she's embodied and she embraces you. And the embrace is the atonement. Nibley says this over and over again. The word and all the spin-offs of kafar and kafia and kaftan, it's all this idea of being wrapped up in a physical person. That's the atonement.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I think it's important to remember like these symbols are multivalent. So as he pointed out here, like yes, there's the tree, and then there's the tree, and then there's also the tree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I one thing I will point out: what is in the center of every celestial room? There's usually a big, bushel. It's not necessarily a tree,
A plant of
but
some
also I
sort.
will say this: when it comes to temple workers, who are the temple workers that are in the celestial room? It's only female temple workers that sit in the celestial room. That
I had never thought about that before.
only female.
I've
There's
never thought
there's
about
never
that.
Male. There's never male.
I've
I
never
didn't know
even
that. I
considered
didn't
that, bro.
realize that.
But you're like,
Really?
I'm trying to think of an exception. I can't.
I don't think that there is. I think it's a rule. I'm
Bro.
pretty sure.
That is actually, I love that. The description of the Holy of Holies in the Books of Kings and Chronicles is as a dark cave. That is a false and apostate.
Deuteronomy even says that he spoke from the darkness. We read that.
Right, spoke from the darkness. The fact that Mormon temples have celestial room that is a place of light and of life, plant life, is a almost entirely, I think, unrecognized sign of the restoration of the true temple order.
And I will say, look at any like open house pictures of temples
Online, right?
And
Online.
yeah, look them up online in the celestial rooms. You're gonna see a whole lot
And
of
it's in like
tree
the tiling,
imagery.
and it's in the windows and the stained glass, and it's in the actual like floral arrangements. I've never seen
Especially
one that
the
didn't
new
have.
one.
It's literally, if you look, they shave the carpet into these patterns of some kind of vine
Branches.
or floral pattern. Like, I don't know how much those carpets cost, but they're trying to recreate. You are in Eden, and the idea is the water I don't know if you want to do this, but if you go to
Keep going, bro.
How much time do I have? Can I go here?
minutes.
Just we'll
Okay.
go over.
Carter
Go
looks
to
like
go to
he's gonna fall
Psalms. Go to
asleep.
Psalm 36.
No, I'm invigorated. I feel like we're blazing a trail.
I'm
here.
a total nerd on this, but I was.
Can we just start calling the church office building people that make the boring manuals the modern deuteronomists?
Oh my
Because
gosh,
they just
Gordon.
keep skipping this
You're
crap.
gonna
you know
get
what
me in
I'm
a lot of
saying?
trouble.
You
though.
are grasping onto the entirely wrong part.
You're gonna get me in trouble.
Okay.
So go
You
to
know?
Psalm 36 really quick. So in Psalm 36, this is all like David's praising God about his chesed, which is like translated as mercy. Look in verse 7. How excellent is thy loving kindness. That's chesed, which is like this covenant love. And he says, therefore the children of men put their trust under the shadow of thy wings. Every time I read this idea about you're under the shadow of his wings, you're now in God's presence, because those wings cover you. And wing, it's weird, but a lot of the Hebrew words for wing is like just this part. So like if I do this, you're really tall, but I took you under my wing. So like when Ruth says to Boaz, like, spread your skirt over me or take me under your wing, it's like this embrace, right? So you're in God's presence. And remember, the embrace is like the atonement. And then verse 8 says, they shall abundantly satisfy with the fatness. And the fatness, that word is usually, it's the word for oil. Shaman is the oil. But a lot of times it's translated as fatness. So I'm getting oil. Well, who gets oil? Kings. Mm-hmm. So, and then it says, thou shalt drink of the river of thy pleasures. Bad translation. The word for pleasures is Eden. And the word Eden in English is Eden. The waters of Eden are coming up from under the Holy of Holies, under the foundation stone, touching the tree, and everything that it touches is healed. If you're drinking the waters of Eden, you're in God's presence, and what's happening? You're in an embrace, and you're getting anointed. So, I mean, this stuff's happening. Now, this isn't a Heavenly Mother text, but this is a text of coming into God's presence, being wrapped in Him, and drinking of this water from Eden. What do we have in Lehi's vision, right? He's calling them to the tree. We have the water, and we can talk about this maybe another time. I don't know, we'll do this here, because the water kind of has dual symbolism. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But the idea is that there's sacred waters coming here, and this stuff's all over the place in the Psalms. But what is cool about Dave wrote this book that's coming out soon, and in the book he shows you that the whole Book of Mormon is doing this all over the place. Like, wow. It's everywhere. And
Dude,
so
I feel like we're blazing a trail, bro. Like we're Indiana Jones about to go into the freaking cave and steal the golden idol. We just got a better whip.
There's some really good stuff in here. And there is some, and I'm hoping maybe tomorrow we can look at some of this. There's some really cool, provocative ideas about Heavenly Mother from other angles. Like besides Asher, we have this other name. She's used 7 times in Genesis, and it's El Shaddai, which is the Almighty God, is how the King James translators translate it. Because, Shaddai a lot of times is considered like mountain. So El of the mountain or God of the mountain. Well, Shad means breast. So Shaddai, it's apocryphated. They drop the mem at the end. So it should be Shaddaiim, but a lot of times they just drop that meme. So Shaddai literally could be El, God of the breasts. And so it's translated as God of the mountain. But there's biblical scholars that are like, El Shaddai could possibly be a female god. And here's what's mind-blowing. There's 7 references to El Shaddai in Genesis. 6 of them are all El Shaddai is speaking, giving them fertility blessings, saying, you will go have babies, you will go have kids. And so there's scholars that read this and say, El Shaddai is probably the name of the female goddess. Whoa! And in the Psalms, there's text where the Psalm person, the person speaking, says that Elohim and El Shaddai from behind the veil are calling you to come to them. Like, that's happening. I even sent that to you when I was doing the translating. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the temple. You have El Shaddai and Elohim calling you to come. And what are you doing? Drinking the waters of Eden, getting anointed, getting embraced. So this is just happening. And the translators, not having been to the temple, they're doing their best. I'm not dissing these guys. They're doing really good stuff. But this is what language has done for me.
Let's be honest, but you kind of are.
It's opened my mind.
You're saying
they deserve it a bit. I mean,
Dave Butler basically physically threatened the Deuteronomy, saying he would beat him up.
I'll take those guys. The
river
of the
you drink their milkshake.
Dead 2,600 years.
But the Book of Mormon's doing this. But a lot of times the Book of Mormon, the Heavenly Mother stuff, isn't like in your face. You kind of have to.
Well, we've missed it, right?
Yeah.
For 200 years, we've missed it because it's sufficiently subtle. Yeah. But it's also throughout. It's the tree of life is one of the ghosts that haunts the Book of Mormon. Like in
Okay. So I know we can't do this in the last 2 minutes, but just catch us up on the super chats.
I
Brad.
got you.
Hit us.
Okay.
We will rapid fire
We
these.
gotta do
Jonah
that next
Barnes.
time. Sorry, I
He
talked
says
No,
Butler
no.
and Day and Hayden and BT Whitbeck all-star cast. But sad, none of you have read the Bo Jeranek. Oh, Book of Jeranek.
I have read it.
Shame. Yeah.
Oh,
I have read
Dave
it.
has.
I bought it from Matthew Gill and read the whole thing.
Yeah, like a boss. Now, Jerry Grover, he says Lehi's land of inheritance was probably farmed by Samaritans with rent paid to the Assyrians during its control over Samaria and are likely paying rent to Lehi after Judah asserted control in Samaria. That's a fascinating thing.
Wait, Lehi's land of inheritance.
Because Manasseh was a
Manasseh
tribe
was
in the
in-
northern kingdom. That's the. That's
Didn't
the
you do a
point.
video on that, Hayden? Because the land of
Yeah.
his inheritance is not in Jerusalem.
Right.
Yeah,
They leave
it would be in the
Jerusalem
north.
to go get the money.
Which I'm sure Joseph Smith at 23 totally understood
Which
the
is
logistics of
interesting.
how lands of inheritance and where they were.
which is interesting that Lehi, who is going contrary to what the Deuteronomists are saying, hails from the land where all of these altars and all of these temples, all these false temples that they destroyed came from. So,
Okay, now I want you guys to answer this in 10 seconds or less. Each of you, give me your best answer to this. From Jonah
V for
Barnes.
Vendetta.
When do you think Lehi's forefathers left the north? 2 Chronicles 15. Also, Laban and Lehi, brothers, cousins.
I think that they left the north right before the Assyrians came in and wiped them out.
Okay.
In archaeology, there's a bunch of archaeologists that talk about this, but they say there was a massive I can't even speak transmigration of people. 720 ish.
Okay, 720-ish.
I wonder if they've really left the north. If the lands of their inheritance is still up there in the.
They're still hanging out.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I pass on that one. There was a second question though. What's
And
the
then
other question?
Laban and Lehi. How
Oh,
are they
yeah.
related? Brothers, cousins,
This
Gunkel, I guess? Is that a thing?
is Gunkel.
Hermann Gunkel.
Some kind of kin. There's a lot to say about the Laban episode, including that we read it because Nephi presents it as Nephi being the hero, but Laman and Lemuel, I think, have a pretty good case for, hey, why are you all excited about Nephi here? We did the right thing. We went and tried to negotiate for the plates like Dad asked. Our cousin Laban wanted to buy them, we tried to buy them back. We did everything right, and then Nephi goes crazy and goes over the wall and murders our family member to rob him, right? Is another way to tell the story of 1 Nephi 4. But another thing, and this is kind of tangential, but I want to say it anyway.
Do it.
Nephi kills Laban. Nephi is the fair one. Laban is the white one. That's what their names mean. He then puts on Laban's clothing and effects a kind of resurrection. He becomes Laban, and it not only fools people who know Nephi, his brothers, it also fools people who know Laban, the servant Zoram, right? So there's like mythologically, there is like it's a little bit like Luke Skywalker confronting his father inside him, or his own face inside Darth Vader on the planet Dagobah, right?
It's like a rebirth narrative because
it's
he's got the garment shift.
And Lehi sort of becomes reborn as the white one in that moment.
And
Yeah.
by the way, every time you talk like this, I just can't help thinking about where he's like, I'm no longer Gandalf the Grey, bro. Gandalf the White.
Come to you in
nice.
your hour of need.
Yeah, that's epic.
Okay, next up we got Ben Giles. It's Monday for us on the East Coast. Please take my tithing. Hurrah for Israel.
All right, Ben Giles.
Court McMullen. Spending money on Sunday isn't a sin. Not supporting the show, however, is the greatest sin of all. Oh my gosh. I feel like there are worse sins. But
No.
Thank you, though.
No. Don't be a Deuteronomist and change. No, just kidding.
This is the worst.
Okay, Latter-day Chad with Josiah is why the Book of Mormon warns so much about kings. That's a fascinating
Shout out
take.
to Latter-day Chad.
But
I
yet,
ran
what does
into
it
him at
say?
the temple in
The
Columbus,
best
Ohio.
government is a king, it says.
If you
No.
can have righteous
If you can have one. But
ones.
think about this. Would somebody who was born right after the freaking war with Great Britain, would he have written that the greatest government is kings? Like, you would never write that, bro, if you wrote that.
Mosiah said that 600 years later, after having just read everything about the Jaredites.
Oh.
So I think there's some fascinating context there, but I don't want to sidetrack us. Latter-day Chad also added Jeremiah 8:8-9, and Dead Sea Scrolls show Deuteronomy and the Book of the Law is falsified. Wisdom is also the name of the tree of life, and feminine.
Wisdom is commonly understood. Proverbs 3:13-18 is sort of the key text. Yep. Is commonly understood to be a name for the tree of life and mother in heaven.
You put that in your book, right?
That is in there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Chapter
Sean Fletcher has gifted
10.
5 more memberships, so let's get WX5 in the chat
Whoop.
for everyone who has entered. And now Jerry Grover, right here, he says, a bronze snake was found in a Timnah Midianite shrine in Timnah in 1200 BC. Hezekiah was trying to get rid of the cult of the bronze serpent, which involved fertility worship, so it became corrupted.
That's a take.
That's interesting. Jesus in John chapter 3 and Nephite prophets in 1 Nephi 17, 2 Nephi 25, Alma 33, and Helaman 8 all say, without any embarrassment, that Jesus is the Nehushtan.
And one thing that I think is important for people...
Where was that again?
4 spots in the Book of Mormon.
Yeah. 1 Nephi 17.
And Jesus
2
himself.
Nephi 25.
Alma
33. Helaman 8. And John 3. So all, and none of them say,
5 spots.
notwithstanding what
the people have corrupted
did, or hey, we know this kind of got corrupt. They just unabashedly embrace it.
And Brad, let me just throw this out there. What if you're both right? What if everything you're saying is dead on, but what if there was some fertility stuff going on? Because there's 31 flavors, bro. You got Rocky Road and cookies and cream, but don't forget the pralines and cream.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is like the corrupted form of it came from somewhere, right? And so like you've got something good here, and just because we found evidence of corruption somewhere doesn't mean that all of it was corrupt, bro.
The serpent is a very common in the Americas too. Divine symbol, right? It's understandable why it's a symbol connected with, for example, resurrection. The snake sheds its skin and yet lives, like we shed a body and still live, right? And because it goes underground and comes back again, it seems to be a being that can transition between worlds. So it is strange to think that the Nephites knew Jesus as a snake, but they say that they did 4 times. They also say in 2 Nephi 2, Nephi says to his son Jacob that Satan is a snake. They're both snakes. So, by the way, when we notice in Isaiah 8 that there are at least 2 seraphim, meaning there are at least 2 Nehushtans, that's probably because in the temple liturgy, one of them was born by a priest representing Lucifer, Satan, and he tried to beguile you by appearing similar to the Lord, who would be the other.
And he would be decked out in clothes that represented authority and power, and the good guy would be decked out in clothes that represents Yahweh, and they would have roles. And so before you get to the veil to approach the Father, you get challenged. And by the way, that's happening in the Psalms, and it's happening in Job. The entire book of Job is the freaking endowment. Right before he gets there, he gets challenged. So it's going on in Job, it's going on in the Sermon on the Mount, it's talked about, and it's talked about in the Psalms. So this idea that there was a liturgy and there was a dude who played the role of the good guy, Yahweh, and a dude who played the role of the other snake, the bad guy, and he had stuff that kind of represented that team, shouldn't freak out a lot of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff's happening.
So to address the title of this live stream, The Real View of the Hebrews, this is what the real view of the Hebrews was.
Or one of them.
Or one of them.
I would be so careful.
The real view of some of the Hebrews, at least the ones, that at least Lehi and some of the other people in Jerusalem at the time of Lehi, is that we were cast out of a garden, that there was one that was sent and would be raised up, and through him we would be cleansed of our sin, and one day be able to stand before the veil, have an embrace with God, and then be brought into the presence of God and his family. And that is the view of the Hebrews that you find in the Book of Mormon, not the one that Ethan H. Smith wrote.
Oh, and God has a
absolutely
family.
boring.
Don't forget that part.
And God has a family.
I mean, like you said earlier, Hayden, how do you have a son without having a wife? Right? You can't have a father without a mother.
All right, dude. So catch us up on the last of these
3
super
more.
chats really fast. And then also, everybody, I see I only got a couple hundred likes on this stream. Please make sure that you guys like this stream before we continue. Keep going, Brad.
Alrighty. We got Scottish Warrior here. He says, I saw the tree in the mirror and I thought it was a picture. That's cool. So he saw a tree in the Holy of Holies. In the Celestial Room. Robert Hall says the tree is mentioned in the endowment ceremony. Oh, yeah. And then Liv Maxfield says, please do an episode going further into this. This is super interesting. I totally agree, Liv. We're definitely going to be recording more episodes with these guys. We're going to be going over a lot of this. I think there's one last thing that we have as a super chat that we need to read. But I would love if after the stream, like we did with the just a couple episodes ago, man.
Where we did what?
I want to ask everybody to leave a comment on the video after it's over.
Oh, after the stream.
After the stream's over. I want them to comment what part you're most interested in hearing more about.
Yes.
I know it's going to be the song at the front end.
Yeah, you want another song?
You can cast a vote. I have other songs. Comment if you want to hear the song "Down by the Waters of Sebus." I will play it or not tomorrow, depending on what you say.
I can tell more stories about clearing out beef because a lot of people like that story.
But yeah, I want to know what do you want to know more about? Do you want to know more about Asherah specifically? Do you want to know more about the Deuteronomists? Do you want to know more about what the Tree of Life relates to with Asherah? Do you want to know more about the Sermon on the Mount specifically? Let us know what you want to know. And that would be awesome for the comments.
And Dave Butler, you have to welcome Eric Harper to the Ward
Welcome
Radio.
to Ward
Wigwam.
Radio, Eric Harper. Everyone who can sustain the acceptance of Brother Harper's records, please indicate by putting a W into the chat.
Yes.
Yeah.
W.
Okay, and then Darren Brower also just gifted 5 memberships, so WX5 for all of those. Yeah. And then finally, we got a Latter-day Chad question that's been chilling in here because it hasn't really applied to what we're talking about yet. So this is the thing to finalize things for us.
He wants to know more about what Gunkel said about the Deuteronomists. Is that what it was?
Yeah. So Latter-day Chad says, finally the video I've been waiting for. Thoughts on Enoch's Watchers being symbolic of temple priests like the one Korihor was deceived by.
Right up your alley, bro.
We can do an
So
episode.
thoughts
I think that's
on Enoch's, the Book of Enoch's Watchers being corrupt temple priests?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the story.
Wait, I thought they were the giant stone guys.
Well,
that helped
those are
Russell Crowe.
their sons, right? So, yeah, the book of the first. The first book of Enoch, the Ethiopic Apocalypse of Enoch, tells a story that is hinted at in Genesis 6. It's told in other books as well about angels who fall. And they are angels who, Genesis 6 says that they, sons of God, i.e. angels, sleep with the daughters of men. A common interpretation of this story, as of other stories, okay, in the Old Testament, is that they are, even though they're told in primordial times, in the case of the Enoch story, or they're told in, for instance, Exodus times, as with the case of, for example, the way the book of Numbers goes out of its way to humiliate the prophetess Miriam over and over again, okay, is they're really actually storytelling of conflicts among different priesthoods late in the kingdom of Judah, okay? And so the idea is that the Watchers are not fallen angels. They are corrupt priests. They are who, and so the point of view of the writers of Enoch, which would be somebody. Enoch is really it's like the Torah. It's thought to be 5 or 6 books together, stitched into one 108, 109 chapter book. Okay, so
yeah.
It's got writers, not writer. The writers of Enoch lived between Lehi and Jesus, okay, in the Second Temple period. And the story of the Watchers was their way of talking about priests who had sinned, who had, and maybe part of the sin is that they had entered into inappropriate marriages. Maybe that's what it means that the sons of God married the daughters of men. In the sort of old temple code, a star is an angel, is one of the sons of God, is a priest. Those things are all
Code speech interchangeable.
in the same way that
angel just means
the
messenger,
mountain
right?
and heaven and the temple are all the same
Well,
thing.
it was celibacy like that didn't come out until later in the Catholic Church. Was there any kind of prohibition against marriage with old Israelite priests? I don't remember that.
Well, you have
because,
debates
like,
in the Book
Elizabeth,
of Numbers, for example, about marrying foreigners, and whether it was appropriate to marry a foreigner.
And during Ezra's time, there's this huge bit where they say, oh, you're married to these people that are not of this line. You've got to divorce them. And so there's a lot of discussion about that. Like, what does that mean? And then there's a big discussion about, like, proving your genealogical lines to prove that you're a Cohen or a priest. Like, you have to prove this stuff. So there's certainly discussion there on that. My take on Genesis 6 is just this. I'm in a different camp. But it's a kind of it's doing this to the Babylonians. So the story goes like this.
Yeah, you believe that they redid the Genesis story in order to kind of backtrack on the Babylonian influence that the Israelites had gained while in captivity, right?
I mean, yeah, partially. The Babylonians traced their genealogical lines to, we descended from these beings that were like part God, part men, and so our kings our kings of old came from that. And so the author of Genesis 6 is saying, well, the people that were these divine beings that came down and procreated were not good, they were bad. And so it's kind of them saying this to the Babylonians. Of course, I don't know. I wasn't there, but these are the discussions that are happening in biblical scholarship. My favorite author on this, and guys, this guy is like legit, and I've searched his footnotes, and it's just, I literally feel like I'm a kid in the candy store. I've spent hours reading this stuff, is Michael Heiser. If you read Michael Heiser's
Heiser's
stuff,
awesome.
like, he is
May he rest in peace.
He died?
Yeah, Michael Heiser, I think, just passed this year.
What? I did not know this.
Yeah, hold on a second. Michael Heiser.
Michael Heiser wrote The Unseen Realm, Reversing Hermon. Both those books are excellent.
Yeah, he died February 20th, 2023, age 60 years old. We're talking about the exact same guy,
Bro,
right?
I love him. Yeah,
This guy,
he died.
That year.
I've actually emailed him. Like, he answered me. Like,
yeah, well,
I was just going to say, if he hasn't answered,
he had a
don't
thing
wait,
where
stop
he's like,
waiting.
don't bug me, I'm busy. But I asked a very specific question, and we had this really cool discussion. I was like, bro, you are legit.
Yeah, no, because I've subscribed to his YouTube channel. I don't know if he has interns that are still. It's like Pythagoras was still publishing books years after he, passed. He's
So was
still,
Isaiah.
His YouTube channel is still pumping out content, but it's mostly clips of previous discussions and stuff. But yeah, no, Mike Heiser was phenomenal.
Yeah, he's like awesome. So if you, my take, I really sit in the Michael Heiser fan camp of the interpretation of the beginning of Genesis 6, which is essentially, this is a polemic against Babylon.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Well, guys, everybody, please make sure that you like the stream. Unfortunately, that's all the time we got now. We gotta
Go
end it
night-night.
someday.
We're
We
tired.
gotta go night-night. It's
We
been
just
a long
drove.
Yeah, it's been a long trip to Los Angeles here for these guys.
I want to hear more songs.
So we can record tomorrow.
Yeah. Do you want to give us an outro, bro? Do you want to give us an outro?
You want me to do another song?
Yeah. Give us an outro, bro.
as you
Closing
pull it
him.
Okay.
Closing
Put it
him.
up. Everyone remember.
You know what I'm saying?
Remember to leave a comment on the video. Tell us the things that you want to know more about.
I already know it's going to be.
We're
more
here
singing.
we're here for like 20 more
I only
hours.
have 2 Book of Mormon
And we're going to be
songs.
talking all day tomorrow. So
Yeah, but I know you
tell
got
us what you want to
songs
hear.
of other
Hey, should we
bits.
live stream again
That's
tomorrow or what?
We could.
It'd be like tomorrow morning. Do you live stream in the morning?
Jeez, let us know what you guys want to hear more of besides this song. And yeah, here's our outro. And I will ask you questions. If there's any last super chats, we're not asking for them because it's Sunday. But if one of these shows up or something, I will literally be asking you the question while you're singing, and you have to ad lib it into the song.
No.
That's not going to happen.
Okay, cool.
But
All
I
right,
like-
go
I like
for
the
it, bro.
ambition of it.
For this and more, check us out at wardradio.com.
Down by the waters of Sebus, one bright sunshiny day. No jobs and no bills to grieve us.
No.
Me and my buddies just aching to play.
Smile, Mike.
Down comes some Nephite tough guy, rattling on about serving his Lord. I can't say I paid much much attention until he whipped out that shiny sword. And
The
then he cut off
sword!
my arm. Yeah, cut off my arm.
Oh no.
The whole game lost its charm when he cut off my arm.
Does it look real?
That's
Yeah,
pretty
dude,
good,
you wear your arms.
It's usually fun messing with shepherds. Oh, 'cause shepherds are usually wimps.
This is
It's
epic.
like pulling the noses off lepers.
Off leopard.
Or taking lunch money from shrimps. We
Bum,
laughed as he pulled that sling out. We laughed as he let it fly. But the whole thing seemed a lot less funny when he nailed my buddy Zoram right in the eye. And then he cut off my arm. Yeah, he cut off my arm.
I had no idea you had this skill, bro.
I didn't mean him no harm. But he cut off my arm.
Darren
Well,
Brower.
I used to play piano.
Just gifted 5 memberships.
I used to pick guitar.
Weave it in, bro.
Not anymore.
I used to be the beau of every Betty in the bar. I'd pinch 'em and I'd tickle. They'd laugh and beg for more. Now all my good times are piled high on King Lamoni's floor.
It's still going.
I never saw myself as a robber,
I'm not even worthy to know you.
just one of the boys out
know.
looking for fun.
You wrote this.
I didn't expect to get clobbered, leave with 2 arms and come home with 1. I like to think I learned my lesson.
This is all memorized.
Though it might be too late for me.
Written on the fleshy tablets of his
You
heart.
see a shepherd, you think he needs messing. You better turn right around and flee. He might cut off your arm. He might cut off your arm.
Cut off your arm.
Don't do
Sound
it.
the alarm.
Please, no.
The alarm.
Well, he cut off my
He's disarming.
Cut off my arm.
Quite disarming.
Oh, he cut off my arm.
Like a bloody deuteronomist.
No harm.
He pulled a Hezekiah on my arm.
Gotta love the arm.
Wow.
All right.
Beautiful.
For this and more, please make sure you guys check us
Subscribe.
out at WardRadio.com.
Bro.
I built a rocket in my basement.
You are
I'm
amazing.
gonna fly it to the moon. This supersonic is amazing. You're gonna feel my sonic boom. I'm flying higher and I'm never coming down. Look at me now. Look at me now. Look at me. We brought the funk into this function. Yeah. We show up dressing to the nines. Okay. Never need an introduction. No matter what, we're feeling fine. I'm flying high and I'm never coming down. Look at me now. Look at me now.